All right. Looking good to go, Jen? No, it's Jimmy. You got it? That's correct, everybody. Will call this meeting to order. Jen, will you do roll call, please?
Tom McDonald,
Here?
Len Titi, Jennifer Finley, here, Jim Molitor,
Here.
Carol Langford, Terry Pitts, Bing Matt, Ellie Bundy, Martin Charlo,
Present.
Mike Dolson,
I'm here.
James Steele Senior.
Thank you, Jen. Could I ask Mike if you'd start us out in prayer this morning?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Creator, in your all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-loving way, bless us as we do the work of our tribe today, and hold especially all those folks who are hurting in your palms, and give them strength to get through their days, and all the intentions that all of your guests here have, grant them in the best way you can. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Mike.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Morning, Len. Okay, we have our minutes from February 2nd for your review. Motion by Jimmy to approve the February 2nd council minutes with corrections. Second by Ellie. Any further discussion? See none, all those in favor, show of hands. Martin, did you vote? Yeah, okay. Yes, we have 8-4, 1 abstention. Mike Dolson, he was out of the room during the meeting. Attending DC consultation for us. Yeah, I know. Thank you for doing that, Mike. All right, we have today's agenda. We have one walk-in. Is there any other additions to the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda addition.
Motion by Land to approve today's agenda with the addition. Second by Martin. Further discussion? Yep, got it. We'll add Martin as an item. All those in favor? Show of hands. Unanimous. All right. Well, let's take care of our walk-in. Leona, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Should I go ahead?
Yeah, please go ahead.
I only see 9 of you. Too bad. I'm here because of my concerns in the Elmo community. We had a nurse who was coming at least twice a week to my house to do my vitals and to see how I am. And about 3 weeks ago, I heard that she quit. I don't know why. And we don't have a nurse up there. I'm sure you're all familiar with the north end of the reservation. That includes Hot Springs, Nirada, Elmo, Dayton, Big Arm, where in from October 1st to Thanksgiving, we lost 6 members of our community. If we had had a nurse up there checking on them, maybe they wouldn't have passed. One of my questions is, who is Frances? I understand she's supposed to be in the Elmo area. I don't even know if she's a nurse or not. But she claimed she has visited with the elders and the sick. But to this date, I have not even met her. She has not been to my house. Who is she? And what are her duties? The first time I heard of her, she was down at the clinic and she gave my daughter some papers and asked her to deliver them to the community members. Nobody has seen her or know who she is. I would like to know who she is and what her duties are supposed to be. I understand that this person I know, her name is Annie McDonald, and she's a nurse. She applied for that position up there. And to this date, she has not heard a response from the clinic in Polson. I thought that was very rude. I went to the clinic in Elmo one day and used the bathroom, and it was filthy. I don't know who's supposed to be cleaning the bathrooms up, but it was absolutely filthy. I couldn't use the bathroom. I understand I know of one other person who's threatening to quit and that's my counselor, my mental health counselor, to see how I'm doing. We had an appointment once a week, and she's threatening to quit. I don't know for what reason. There needs to be something done up at Elmo. We need a nurse to visit our people to make sure they're well. If we had had a nurse, my sister might still be alive. The employees at the clinic at Elmo, I understand, are threatening to quit for whatever reason, I don't know. It's very hard to get to the clinic in Polson for the simple reason the appointments cannot be hastened. We are told you can't come in because we have too many other people wanting appointments. Why is that? Why does it take so long to get an appointment? If you're sick, they tell us, go to the emergency. So we do that, and what happens? Not much. I mentioned Annie McDonald applying for that nursing job at Elmo, and she was told she's not qualified. What happened to Live Native for our kids? There's nothing going on for our kids up there. Where I was told, well, all that information is on computer, on your Facebook. Some of us don't use computers. I don't. I'm illiterate that way. We have a young woman up there. Well, I don't know whether she's young, but she's younger than I am. I think everybody is. I'm 81 years old and I have concerns for my community up there. And I hear through smoke signals or somebody passing the information along that even the south end of the reservation are not getting the nursing care that they need. I don't know that for sure, but that's just what I heard. I'm stuck in my house because I can't get around. But I hear things. And it hurts me right here. I used to be able to get up and get around and help people, but I can't, as you can see. I can't do that anymore. I have been able to help some people financially because there's no work. They need finances to pay their bills. I helped at the last wake we had. That young man that passed away, and nobody was there. He had no family. Not much of a family anyway, and they didn't even have enough finances to purchase the food and stuff like that. So I stepped in and took it out of my own pocket to help them out. It's very sad when we have to do that. I think I'm speaking out of term on that respect, because the young man that passed away was not a member of our tribe, so therefore he couldn't get the $500 services fund for people to help cook and serve the few people that were there. He's not a tribal member, and I can understand that. And it's up to us tribal members to step in and take care of people like that. We shouldn't have to do that. We should have some kind of funds to be able to help, even though they are not a tribal member. They are still members of their own tribe. And we need to call them all our own, our cousins, our brothers, our sisters. And if we can help them, we try to help them. Starting last fall, we filled up 3 freezers full of wild game, and we gave it out all to the community. I personally went to Lake's potato place out Rodan and purchased potatoes to go along with that meat. Those are just some of the problems that we have up there. But my main concern is our medical care. I don't think we're getting the proper medical care that we should be getting. I don't know who's in charge of the clinic up in Polson, but I think it stems from there and keeps going, and nobody does anything. Do we not have the right to make an appointment if we know that we're getting sick? We can't wait until we get sick to get an appointment, because by then it's time for us to go up wherever we go. I've had 2 strokes. One made me crippled on one side. That's why I can't walk. I'm trying. I had some therapists come to the house and try to help me learn how to walk again. The one thing they didn't have to teach me is to speak my voice. And I hope you're all listening to what I have to say. There's 10 of you, or there should be 10 of you up there. And you all have your own district you need to take care of. Do you actually know who's in your district? Who needs help? Who could use a nurse once in a while? You ought to see my toenails. I don't even get foot care anymore. There was one nurse that was able to come to my house and do that for me and take my vitals. Oh, I can see myself in there. I look like my mother, and she would have been just as outspoken as I was when she was still with us. I ask you, I don't know what programs you have here in this complex, but there's some of them that are very rude when you go to ask them something. They just send you on to somebody else who don't know any more than they did. So look at your agendas, look at who you're representing, and get something done. You are the government for this reservation, for this tribe. I'm Kootenai, but I'm also Salish and Ponderay, so I'm all three, so I speak for all the people. And you guys need to take a look at what concerns other people may have and try to correct them. I know this is a hard position. My grandfather was on the council for many years, and that was Jerome Hewancorn. Those are my ancestors up there. And they used to speak up for the tribe. That's my brother. I don't know who you are. You look like a CLP. That's my relative. And I think you are all somehow related to me, because I've been here for 81 years. And there's no doubt in my mind that I'm related to damn near everybody on this reservation. And they need to be looked after. There's people that come to you and ask for your help, and you send them on to letters, like the energy assistance or somebody, to get free money, and that's not right. You need to make the people realize they have to do it themselves. They can't be coming in here after handouts or after handouts. They need to know that they need to try to make it on their own. And they need your guidance to be able to do that. How many people are homeless on this reservation? There's no need for that either. Where I live, just down the road from me, there's an empty house. And I thought of moving in there. I asked my councilman. He checked it out, and that house is not worth living in. Yet it sits there on what used to be my grandmother's property. I was looking into the idea of my getting some kind of a house and put it on that property, but how many other houses are empty like that and put in a position, put in a disaster area? It actually is a disaster area, these homes. Take them down, put something else up. Give everybody a chance to get their own home. And don't make it so hard on them that they're unable to do it. When I get better, when I'm able to walk again, I will be going to these homes and asking them, just what is your problem? Is there somebody that can help you out of this situation? Are you able to work? Our kids have nothing to do. We took my great grandson up to the Libby Dam one day, and he was so impressed with what they have up there. Why can't we do that with Kerr Dam? Show these kids on this reservation, in these schools, that there's something else out there. They don't know. They've never been away from here. Take them to some universities. Show them what's out there. How do you do that? I guess you get a federal grant. That's what I hear a lot. I don't know who this federal grant is, but we're in good shape here. Look at what happened to Turkey. 5,000 dead as of this morning, and still they probably have more. We have something good here. Let's utilize it. Utilize our nurses in our homes. Have them come and evaluate us. Take our blood pressure. See what the blood pressure is like. Don't be bullies and run them off. The nurse that was coming to my house was friendly, knowledgeable, and yet some of her co-workers made it so hard to work with that she moved on. Where, I don't know. So I ask you, each and every one of you councilmen up there, and councilwomen, excuse me, learn what's going out in your learn what's going on out in your district. Come back here and meet with your constituents and see what it is you need to do for that community. I don't know how often you meet, but you need to look at your district and see what's going on out there and try to make corrections. I don't know how. That's a job for you. That's what you were elected for. Well, my main concern was the nurses in our community up north. So if you would look into it, we have several other people up there in the clinic who's threatening to quit. Why, I don't know. I'm not out there to ask them, why are you quitting? You need to be here. So please, if you will, if anything I have said get you up here or down here, put it together and get some good stuff going on our reservation. We have a beautiful reservation. And there's a lot of beautiful people here. Oh, another thing just came to my mind is the drug and alcohol abuse here. It needs to go away. How? I don't know. That's up to you to find out. Sorry to put so much pressure on you guys, but try your best. Thank you for giving me this time to voice my opinions, and if you have any questions, please feel free to.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council, and good morning, Tiny.
Hi.
It's really good to see you this morning. For those of you that don't know Tiny, she's the eldest daughter of Helen Charlo, and it's really good to see her today because I know Tiny does not get too many opportunities to leave her home. So today is a very, not only a good day, but a powerful day when I see you here. I noticed that you had a list of things that have been
Thank you.
that you've been thinking about, that you've been wanting to address, and I think that's good, and I want you to continue to do that and come visit us many times as you can. This is really good that you're able to come in and bring these issues up to us. The tribal health issue has been very challenging for us. Yes, we are aware. Tribal health has been trying to get a full-time nurse in Elmo for some time. And it's just unfortunate that things have been happening over there that's beyond our control, that we're just having a tough time keeping nurses up there. But we continue to challenge tribal health to make sure that Elmo is getting the adequate care that they need up there. We just recently had a tribal health committee, and we asked Joe to provide us a plan on how you are going to enhance services to Elmo specifically. So they're working on that, and they're gonna hopefully come back with a plan here soon. The other issue, Tiny, is homelessness has been something this council has been working on. Very, very tough issue, especially during these cold winter months. I'm not sure if you're aware, but we've established one warming center here on the reservation for the homeless people. And we've had it in 2 different locations. We had it here, one in Pablo, and then we rotated to Ronan, which has been a very great service that has been needed. It was used by a lot of our homeless people. We are trying to look at other creative ideas on how to get more homes in the community. And I know there's a few that housing has coming up here that should be coming up within a few years. So yeah, homelessness is a very tough one. It's just we see it out there. We know the people out there that are actually living on the street out there, and it's just sad to see. But we are addressing the best we can. And it's just very heartwarming to see you here today, Tiny. I'm just glad that I know these issues are very important to you, for you to come take the time to come visit with us this morning. So thank you, and I continue to ask you to continue doing that. Come in and talk with us about this and let us know. It's very appreciative. We've been having a lot of things going on here, and it's always good to see that our membership step up and remind us who we work for. And I appreciate that. I'm very grateful to you. So thank you.
Thank you, Len. I want to echo Len's comments, Tiny. All your items are on our list, and we're working hard on it, especially tribal health. So tribal health has been one of my focuses to improve services from day one when I came into this office a year ago. So yeah, we've stepped up the program. Hopefully you'll see a benefit from that. I know that you've seen a loss, and we want to correct that. We absolutely want to correct that. We want to provide a lot of training to our workforce. It would help from stopping bullying, keep our people working. You know, when you get a good person, you want to hang on to it. We want that service to continue, and to lose that is something that we're not gonna be happy with. So we're trying to fix that as much as we can for everybody. But all your issues are great issues, and I think we're working on every one of these. But thank you so much for coming in. Really do want to appreciate you coming in and voicing your concerns. Jennifer?
Thank you, Chairman. Tiny, thank you for coming in, and you're just one of the kindest people I know, and I have so much respect for you. And one of the things that I appreciate about you is that you're a strong advocate for your community, and you're a strong advocate for everybody. And I really respect that. I really respect that you bring up a lot of issues that would make all of us better. So thank you. Thank you for your powerful voice, and thank you for coming here today.
I have I think just one more question.
Oh, go ahead.
You mentioned Joe at the clinic. Who is Joe?
That would be Joe Durglow. He's a tribal health director.
Does he have a medical background of any kind?
I don't believe so. No. He's
And-
worked for tribal health for a number of years, but not in the medical field.
Also, just so you know, Joe's supervisor, Patty Hibbler, was in the room. She had to leave a few minutes ago, but she heard all of your comments. And so that is good. That is really good for that. So she's trying to do the right thing also, and trying to, introduce change and make us more responsive as much as possible. So I'm glad that she came down. Thank you, Jen, for having her come down. So she heard everything you said. So thank you again for coming in. Any other comments? No? Well, good, Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Something immediate that could make a difference is these clinics should have a list of elders. So like when they call up and they would like to get an appointment, they find a way to work them in that day rather than saying you have to wait for an appointment.
We'll be working on the cleaning the restroom immediately. We'll try to take care of that right away. Should be a really easy fix,
Should be.
should be. So, thank you.
I'd go in and do it myself, but I can't even walk, so.
Yeah, well, thank you. Any other comments? All right. Tiny, thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
For coming in. Travel safe.
Thank you for having me.
We hope to see you again.
Oh, I'll be back.
I hope so.
Thank you, Martin.
Go get your
Okay, Martin, you had one item?
Probably an executive,
Oh, okay.
so we can wait, it's nothing urgent, we can wait.
Go ahead, Jen.
Okay, so there's the next three resolutions that Teresa
Okay.
submitted. So here's the first one.
All right, this is some housekeeping we gotta do based on the actions that took place, past few days. There's three different resolutions for finances.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to approve the resolution changing the authorized signatures on the Mission Valley Power Depository checking account at Eagle Bank from Mission Valley Power's PL 93-638 contract.
Motion by Lynn to approve the resolution for MVP's account at Eagle Bank. Second by Jennifer. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Motion by Martin to approve the next one. Commercial money market. Wherever it is. Okay, money market account, Eagle Bank. Second by Bing. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Okay, motion by Ellie to approve the resolution for the payment sweep account, Eagle Bank for Mission Valley Power. Second by Martin. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Okay, now we're up to Ruth. Kasquek. Did you find more money for us, Ruth? All right.
Sure did. Okay, quick. Beginning on page 8 of your packet, we've been awarded some prior period funding out of the Indian Affairs for, actually, we made requests to Northwest Region for end of year unobligated funding. Our actual request was over 700,000. They funded 195,000 of that, all for Division of Fish, Wildlife, Recreation, and Conservation. So part of that request was to purchase 2 vehicles. So I'm requesting approval of that capital equipment acquisition as well. I just need your action by motion.
Motion by Jennifer to approve the capital purchase of 2 vehicles for fisheries.
Fishing game and.
Oh, fishing
wildland
game and
recreation.
wildlife. Okay, when wildlife and fisheries. Second by Jimmy. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous.
All right, now switching back to the modification. So the majority of that is increases in contracts and grants in principally Health and Human Services. You see that increase of just over 7.3 million. The Indian Affairs Award I told you about shows up under Natural Resources as 195,000 of that 282. Our total increase is 9,451,391. Total allocations now be revised to 281,198,588.
Motion by Mike to approve the resolution for budget modification 8 of fiscal year 2023 total budget allocation. Second by Ellie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous? Not much.
That much.
Have a good day.
Okay, Melinda.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My presentation today starts on page 11. I'm here to, ask for council approval for a project-specific agreement between, CSKT and the Montana Department of Transportation for, a project that's going to be consisting of, preliminary engineering planning for a bridge replacement on Moe's Valley Road. This is just for the engineering portion. For the construction part, I'll be coming back later to get a PSA approved for that once the plans are finalized for them. There is going to be some minor road reconstruction due to the replacement of the bridge. So they plan on the total construction amount right now is planned at $1.8 million.
Martin,
Motion to approve the PSA with CSKT and NDOT.
motion by Martin to approve the PSA with Tribes and MDOT for bridge design replacement for Crow Creek Bridge and Moise Valley Road. Second by Len. Any further discussion? Yeah, go ahead, Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So is the county, are they putting anything into this?
I'm not sure. I think it's just a Montana Department of Transportation project right now. I haven't heard anything about the county being involved, but as far as I know, it's just right now a Montana Department of Transportation project that they are going to be doing.
And at one time, we even talked about taking over this particular segment and having our VA roads program replace this bridge because of the traffic load on it and the condition of the bridge. So, yeah, go ahead, Glenn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just really wanted to mention real quick, the good work that Melinda does for the tribe. You know, many of you know, she's just a one-woman show up there. But not only that, she also maintains our Indian preference office. So with all these projects going on and her trying to keep our people working, she's just doing a good job up there, and just wanted to acknowledge that real quick. So thank you, Melinda.
Thank you, Len.
Echo that. Any other additional discussion? Seeing none? All right, Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Melinda, how much is this portion costing?
This portion, the engineering portion, let me see if they have that part in here. They estimate that our portion of the contract, which is 3%, is gonna be $4,000. So I don't know how I'd have to, I don't have my phone, I can't do the math. But yeah, so whatever, I can't even think what it would be. Because we're gonna get $4,000 and that's 3% of the fee, so. Yeah, I can't do it in my head, but I could probably figure it out if I had my phone. Yeah, but yeah, we will get $4,000 in Indian preference contracting fee for this project, so estimated because that's just, it will be based on the actual payments to the contractor, so.
Go ahead, Terry.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Melinda, these projects, I know you bring them forward. Is there a list of projects throughout the reservation, and who prioritizes those?
So MDT does keep kind of an updated list that, they have a map, and they usually have like a 5-year plan. They do put out a, report like every year that they have of plans that they have ongoing. So, I do have access to a list of projects that they have planned. Right now, the ones that we are going to be coming up is the Ronan project that we're gonna be starting hopefully soon. We're also gonna be doing some, chip seal on Highway 93 here of this other portion from, this side of Lakes Corner probably to, I think, Minesinger. And those will be what's going to be going on this coming construction season, so. But Ronan will be the big one, so we're gonna be starting, soon. They wanted to start March 1st, but we might get started a little bit earlier than that. Just slowly at first, and then, we're gonna get going pretty quick, and then probably go until the snow comes, so.
Go ahead, Martin.
Just real quick, I want to make sure that we mentioned that Shauna Freelander's also up in Preppin's office, and don't want to forget employees. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous?
All right, I just have to come and get your signature, Tom.
Thank you, Melinda. All right, next up we have Carrie. Okay, Carrie, reverse that math. What's 4,000, 3%? I know that math person back there probably got it.
I did think about
We used to challenge each other those kind of games. Oh, man. Yeah. Yep. 135. Okay, Carrie, go ahead.
Well, good morning, Chairman and Council. Thank you for having me in this morning. I want to begin on page 16 of the packet this morning. So this is a collection permit for Dr. Jack Hogg, and he works primarily with the bighorn sheep on the bison range, and he's been doing a long-term study and data collection there. I'll briefly kind of update you on last year's results. We had 10 lambs born on the bison range. 5 of those survived to the end of 2022, so the end of December last year. 5 of them were still alive. We did have, they encountered 1 ram and 1 ewe found dead. They assumed, lost from the herd, they assumed there was kind of a ram inflicted mortality there. And then he completes every year a census of bighorn sheep on the bison range. So at the end of last year, we had 19 sheep, which was a 2 sheep increase from last year. So kind of that juvenile retention kind of helped boost those numbers. We did have a unique case of 1 lamb. So typically lambs are born in May of each year. And last year they did have 1 born in October, which was kind of a surprise lamb. And that one did make it through the end of December. And so they're anxious to get out in kind of this next year's surveying to see if that little lamb is still around. What they are proposing on page 17 this year, they're wanting to continue with phases 1 and 2. They're going to continue to do that population census, work on disease ecology to see how they're recovering after exposure to pneumonia in the herd, and then also continue that time of breeding and birth under climate change, and then kind of continue this year
that would, you know, the thing that's new to this year's, collection permit is kind of that public outreach educational film component. There was a cinematographer last year who did for, I don't think it was PBS, but did put together, and take some kind of film, and he's putting together an educational film on multiple, refuges, across the country. And so they're finishing up that film this year. So, he just made sure to put that in their collection permit. And other than that, it looks, the processes, survey methods, everything is the same as last year and in previous years.
Any questions for Carrie about the continuation of the scientific collection permit at the Vice Range? Go ahead, Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Monitoring lion impacts. Have you been doing that at all?
Not on the bison range. The mortality to this herd is primarily kind of those younger lambs. In that early spring season, they tend to get predated pretty heavily upon by coyotes, which is another similar issue shared with the pronghorn populations as well. But so predation on the bison range typically is kind of in that younger group, or they kind of age out. I think last year he did kind of a demographic census, and most of them were up at that kind of 13 and older range. There were some maybe 8 or 9 year old females, but they're kind of phasing out just age wise. And so kind of really focusing on that that lamb recruitment and retention is really needed to kind of continue to supplement that herd. And I know that we have been doing some coyote suppression on the bison range to sort of help mitigate some of those effects, predation effects on some of these species.
Any other questions about the bighorn sheep study? Motion by Martin to approve the scientific collection permit for bighorn sheep on the bison range. Second by Len. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all's in favor? Show of hands. Unanimous.
Thank you very much. I'll move on to pages 23 and 25 in your packet there this morning. So these are both letters for moose off-reservation moose harvest numbers. Each year, each spring, we sort of condense all that information, and then we'll share it with Region 1 and Region 2. That helps them kind of coordinate and collaborate on their moose harvest tags and stuff off the reservation, kind of in those surrounding areas. And so let's see, this year we did have 5 off-reservation harvests. And so on page 24 and 26, I mean, it's the same graph on 24 and 26, but you know, you can see kind of the list of those and kind of the different hunting districts that they came from. Let's see, and I don't think anything odd was to note on any of those. And so, yeah, if you have questions on those or the letters, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Carrie? Is there what's the latest trending data for moose populations?
So looking at our just sort of yearly flights, they've been kind of hovering. We tend to only pick up about 10 to 12 moose on our surveys, our aerial surveys. And so they haven't decreased, but they haven't been increasing either.
Okay. Any questions? Share the information. Motion by Mike to approve the letters. Second by Bing. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Thanks, Carrie.
Thank you guys very much. And then, finally, or the last, collection permit we have, we are joined by Beth, with the Owl Research Institute. This collection permit, one that is a renewal of one that we've done in the past. I think Dale had previously brought in, and they had, had a 5-year collection permit that went from, 2001 to last, nope, not 2001. 2017, I think, to last year. And so this is a request to continue that 5-year collection permit, or to renew that 5-year collection permit. And I'll kind of walk you through a little bit of some of the activities that they did last year. We really rely heavily on the Owl Research Institute to help collect some of our research and baseline surveying data. I know our biologists work frequently with ORI, Owl Research Institute, in identifying where sensitive species nests are, and that really helps us with our environmental impact assessments, creating management plans for certain areas. So they've been really really instrumental in kind of helping us gather the data that helps us kind of do our kind of normal our management processes. Last year, they continued nocturnal owl surveys. They had great gray nesting and monitoring studies. They did both short-eared and long-eared owl nesting surveys, cavity nesters, and then our biologists helped them out with some northern saw-whet migration owl banding. So they banded some owls. Oh, thank you very much. And then they also help us gather data each winter on our winter raptors. And so kind of help as the migrate come back in, and then they kind of transition out in the spring, help kind of capture some of that. So let's see, I think that was most of it for that collection permit. A lot of it's the same. They did provide on page 32 and 38 through 38 kind of their plans for and where they're going to be doing, kind of focusing some of those research activities this next year.
Any questions from council? I can certainly vouch that Denver Holt's been a great partner and tool for us to utilize as a nonprofit agency. To his data and his program is very, very up to par. It's well known nationally, actually across the world. So we're fortunate to be able to utilize these kind of volunteers and nonprofits to aid in our wildlife management. We just vouch for their program and say he's been a great partner, strong advocate of tribal rights, unbelievable advocate for us and tribal resource management. Any questions for scientific collection permit? Motion by Martin to approve. Second by Len. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous?
Thank you so much.
I think you're done now, Carrie. Huh?
Thank you.
Are you done?
Oh, well, I did have one kind of follow-up on that,
Okay.
On Owl Research Institute's collection permit, and then maybe Beth can help kind of fill in some details around it, but there are, it does seem for volunteers, so ORI kind of really relies on volunteers, usually from like the universities or kind of surrounding just community members coming and helping with some of these collect data and survey for some of their activities. But they're having some issues since a lot of them kind of only are there maybe 1 or 2 nights a year, that the recreation permit is making it sort of difficult to find volunteers that can come and help out for some of those nights. And so I was wondering if there was a way we could do with ORI like a yearly group permit or education permit, where maybe there's like a one-time fee that ORI applies for, and then that way each volunteer that helps with their projects doesn't have to necessarily get that recreation permit for while they're helping out, but that if there's a way for the Owl Research Institute to have some sort of something in place. I don't know if that's possible, but that's just something that Beth was expressing to me the other day that would be helpful, in helping to continue get volunteers to help out with their surveys.
Go ahead, Martin.
I just went to their site and you can actually look at Owl's live right now. Cool. Maybe I'll share it and get some volunteers for you guys.
Yeah, be great.
Yeah, usually when someone's a partner with us and they're working for us, we waive the recreation permit requirement. That can be done in a annual setting, so they, if the council approves it. There is delegation of authority for education to and approve on their own council. So it's certainly, they're doing work for us. They're a partner to your project. And so the intention would be when they're it's not recreation. They're actually studying, doing research. And so it's unique. It should be covered under the collection permit. And that's how we would do it.
Okay, perfect. And I know that we did include, on the collection permit, they put kind of a list of their volunteers, but then also just other interns and volunteers. So we didn't know if that kind of covered them or not, so.
Well, if there's any question, you just want to add that to it,
Okay.
who it might be, so the wardens would know. So that would be up to your shop to make sure they know.
Perfect.
Thank you. Amanda, come on up.
Ask Wext. Len Wench for having me. I'm here to share the public comment we have received for the 2023-24 recreation regulations. I believe in your packet, it starts on 41. And we did hold a public comment period on Friday. We actually held it Thursday and Friday because of my mistake when I put the announcement out in December. I put for Thursday, November 3rd, but Thursday was the 2nd, Friday was the 3rd. So we just held public comment for both days. But nobody showed up. We did get some emails. That's what I attached in your packet. And there was one letter that was sent in that I forgot to put a PDF and attach it. It was, so I'll just short summary. It was from a CSKT descendant. Their comments were that they would like to see a price set for descendants and not to consider them just non-members, and where they wouldn't have to pay that full price. So that was their comment that I forgot to attach here.
Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. Amanda, did you get an opportunity to meet specifically with both elders committees on these regulations?
I did not.
Okay, I've had some elders ask me some questions on there. I didn't have the answers at the time. So I think I'd like to ask the council before we approve these, if we can set a date to have the staff meet with the elders committees, both elders committees on these proposed changes in these regulations. There were some comments that they would like to address before we move forward on it.
Okay, I will check with them, but on these ones, our permit season actually starts March 1st. So I can see if we could get in as soon as we could and then bring it back. Okay. Okay. And I'll check with the SPCC. All right. Do you know what time their meeting is? At 9? All right. Perfect.
So Amanda, you'd probably want to go through both sets of regulations with them.
Okay.
So, because it's the same time frame.
Okay.
So if you get a chance, you'd have to talk about the tribal member regs also.
All right. And, all right. And then do I just put in a council request to come back for the approval then? Okay. Yeah. Any more questions on the comments that was received or?
No questions? It looks like light comments to me, actually. Compared to the
this is
previous year.
more than, yeah, but more than I usually get anyways.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So right now, the tribal member regs are up for comment, and so I encourage anybody who has any individual personal comments on them, now is the time. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Jace, good morning.
Morning, Mr. Chair, and members of council. I'm here today. We two topics. The first one we'll talk about is the 31A canal chute. If you guys remember far enough back, we got some BA wind funds in late 2020 to assess and assess the condition and then design, replace, or modernize the canal chute in Valley View. It's one of the biggest chutes for FIP, and so it was it's got cracking issues. Really, the main slab of concrete is fine. It's the joints between the concrete are decaying quite rapidly. They did some emergency fixes in 2020. They've held up till now, but the long term, it's just not a viable solution. So we contracted with WWC Engineering, and this isn't it. Sorry. If you go to page, I believe it's 44 in your tribal packet, is 31A canal chute. WWC, we worked through a design. BIA and FIP were both heavily involved. We have now, we went through an open bid process, and submissions were in December of 2022. We had 6 bidders. We did a bid opening over to the Joe McDonald Center. Melinda with IPO was there, as well as the sort of people from the Division of Engineering and Water Resources. WWC did put together a memo just a couple weeks ago. They went through the bids. They qualified or disqualified bids based on completeness of the bidding criteria. If you look through the memo, Mr. Drew Pearson, professional engineer, did this assessment for us, and he goes through the criteria. The low bid was Native Montana Construction, which is a local tribally owned contractor. They passed the sniff test, essentially, is what Drew went through and did. And he called the potential subcontractors, made sure they were worthy, competent individuals or workers. And at the end of the day, I think if you go down far enough, page 52 is a deal we put out between Christmas and New Year's, I think on the 28th, shows the bid, shows the line items. This is all put out on the Missoula Public Works website. That's where we advertise it. So everything you're seeing was bid open to the public from even the bid opening. I actually read them off. You see a page from my tablet where we documented them right there on site, so that nothing. It's been very open to the public, the entire process right there. Yeah, that sheet right there. So at the end of the day, Drew and WWC, as well as my program, the irrigation infrastructure, would like to have your permission and the chairman's signature to award the bid for $653,000, like 561 and some change. So, to Native Montana Construction out of Ronan.
Any questions from council? Like a pretty thorough process.
It was very thorough, yeah. So, and I would like to note, there's a couple tribal subcontractors on the list as well, specifically Diamond Cross Boom Service.
Martin? Oh, Bing?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chase, did you say this is a chute that you're putting in?
So it won't be an open chute. We're going to convert it to a steel pipe, 36-inch steel pipe is the final design that was selected. So.
And that's going down the canal?
Yeah, it connects, so the canal, you can't even see it. You got to get off of Eli Gap and go up over the hill on Rose Lane. It's on, partially on Kendall DeQuee's property and partially on what was part of the Hughes Ranch. But the canal drops a significant amount, it's 680 feet, more or less, that we're going to replace with a steel tube. We did, a long time ago, over a year and a half ago, Mission Valley Power had asked that I look at the hydro potential there. We did assess it. WWC has experience doing this for the Greenfields Irrigation District over in Fairfield, just on the other side of the mountains. And it just wasn't enough to really make that additional leap with MVP to do it. So the opportunity is still there because we have a steel pipe. So we can always come back later if power prices were to rise and make that opportunity more viable. But we did do an assessment. I believe I've submitted that to council. If you guys want it, I can email you individually, no problem. So yeah, we'll convert it to a steel tube, cover it with about a foot of earth, dirt, and then we got some protections up on top, screen and an inlet, and then the dissipation bay at the bottom, which we selected a standard barrel reclamation design, some dissipation bays back in the 80s. We selected barrel reclamation #2 design. So
Go ahead, Bing, and then Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just follow up on that. I was talking to Seth over in Helena, and he was talking about the groundwater down there. And he said, I asked him to come to our district meeting on the 15th, and he said he would, just to talk to the people up there about surface and groundwater up there. And people are still concerned about this going down in this pipes and whatnot, and the groundwater is not going to be there anymore. So I asked him to come up and do a report to the people up there, and so they know what's coming down the pike here real quick.
Yeah.
So but anyway, I just asked you the same thing. Are they gonna put this in that 36-inch pipe?
well, currently the case, this one's in, Mr. Matt, this is a canal street up in the Valley View delivery area. So off of Pablo A Canal, it actually is comes through the mountain right by Eli Gap Road. It's currently concrete, so it's impenetrable anyway. So there's no change in groundwater effect from this change from a chute to a steel pipe. One of our design criteria was a minimum of 50 years life. So we beefed up the steel. It's a little thicker. We are doing cathodic protection, so that should even extend it more. But we're ideally we get 50 years. Hopefully we get 100 years. I think specifically you're talking about our lead. And yeah, I mean, there's, Seth's working on a groundwater study area for the valley down there. I think he'll talk to you guys more about that on the 15th. So,
Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chase, I was just wondering if you had any ideas why the bids are at least 100,000 over the estimate.
So yeah, the range of bids, the high bid was more than double the low bid. So what we're seeing, so if you look at the line items, that's why I wanted to share that with you guys, is you see a lot of upfront charges for MOB, demob, and project management. And we think we're just seeing the cost of labor. Also we currently have the EAC working for us on the the K Canal diversion on the Jocko River there. So we know that they're fairly busy and they got work going on in other places in the state of Montana. So we think that they're saying, hey, if we're gonna bid this, we're gonna bid it to compete with a higher value project to make it more worth their time, where we had always hoped the local guys would be a lot more hungry. And that's what I think we're seeing. And just in conversation, that it seems to be that way. Local guys don't have as big a moat charge. Even the guys, there's a couple group out of Missoula that were real close. And we think we're seeing there the moat charge. We're also seeing maybe people are still taking advantage of the COVID procurement opportunities where, you know, the selected contractor actually took our advice and called the steel mill. We had called the steel mill in our engineers' estimates. And the steel mill said, yeah, we got it on the ground, this is the price. And so, and some people say, well, I'm gonna double it because a year ago I could do that. And so I think we're still seeing the rattling out of the COVID type pricing. So we'll probably continue to see that for another year or so. But no doubt, you know, labor costs for some of the bigger firms working across the state of Montana, they're up. So
Go ahead, Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this pipe, where it first starts, what safety features do you have there to prevent some accident from animals to people falling in there?
So we'll have, we're gonna eventually, I mean, we're gonna have 2 screens. One will be a screen, a giant, it's basically our Jocko K inlet designed for the canals project in our Lee. This will be a design that allows any material that comes down. So instead of being vertical, the grates will be sideways. So it'll be at an angle in the canal, Councilman Pitts, so that the material pinches in against the upside bank. So that, but we're designing that grate or that screen for twice the capacity of the canal. So there'll be it'll be a time you'll be able to allow some things to accumulate there. If you say, oh, I got something stuck there, by the time you get out there with an excavator, you know, whether it's 3 hours later or they don't notice it for a couple days, it's not going to stop the flow. It should be twice the capacity. And then on the structure itself, we're going to have, we were worried about small children playing around it. And so it'll be small enough to not allow, anything to get in. I think we're talking 2-inch slab. It'll be metal bars vertically.
So will they periodically check that?
Yeah, we're going to
Plug ups and stuff?
Yep, we're gonna, couple easy telltales, which is just a flag on a ball. So if there's no water in the pipe, it stands up, you can see it. It is kind of a hard spot to see. So, we're, but it's visible from up on Rose Lane. There's a couple spots where you can actually see it from a distance. So.
I just didn't know if you had maybe some electronic safety device from camera to something.
Yeah, a still camera closed or, a non-audio camera, would possibly work as well. That's kind of more in Phipps realm. But, this is the structure that they were, that they accepted. I mean, they were part of the design process all the way. Mr. Nelson and Mr. Belcourt.
So liability falls upon whom?
I believe FIP. I mean, they're the operator of the facility. BIA and FIP were both driving forces in the design process.
Mike?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can we generate electricity from this pipe?
We could have, and we still can. That's what I was pointing out. We did the little mini hydro feasibility study. It just based on current prices and the cost to run the power line to the point at the base of the hill, it just wasn't financially feasible at this time. Doesn't mean it won't be in the future, which also, help. At least my personal preference was to stay with the steel pipe for that reason, so we can still add to it in the future. We haven't lost that opportunity at this time. The pipe design would be identical to what it is. So we'd have to cut out a section and insert the hydro turbine. We're not leaving that. We're not making that position in the pipe at this time, but in the future, you could do that, yeah. So we haven't lost opportunity, it'll just be a retrofit.
But they did do a study at this rate and it didn't fit.
Yeah, so part of the problem was the canal, peak flow rate's 50 CFS. It typically only flows 25 to 30 CFS. And at the lower at 50 CFS, it would have been something we would have pursued. And, you know, it only flows for about 4 months, maybe 4.5 months of the year, but it's at half the rate. So it's just the cost of the equipment at that CFS. But what it was a good, kind of you know, just kind of a concept that at 50 CFS, mini hydroturbines start to look feasible within the project. So, but yeah, I worked with Jean Matt on that. Started about 2 years ago, actually.
So a question related to that, in a potential retrofit someday in the future, if it penciled out, the length of the pipe and retrofitting that, there's no cavitation issue with that pipe?
No, we, so we designed, that's all been taken into account, and we have, the hydraulic jump, is the way the pipe's designed, it actually occurs about 10 feet before it comes out the pipe, so we level it off, and then it comes into the dissipation bay. So eventually down the road, you would just insert right about where the hydraulic jump is, you insert that turbine, right? Just up from that. So like I said, to be a retrofit, we didn't design like a cage for it to sit in and you know, but you know, we have that opportunity down the road. It'll be more than just the cost of the turbine, all right? We'd have the retrofitting cost, but it could be done.
Glenn?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council. So some time ago, when we were having the discussion about the startup of the rebuild of the irrigation system, I brought up the issue of tribal gravel, that I wanted to assure that all of the contractors that are partaking in the rebuild of the irrigation system utilize and purchase tribal gravel. And the reason why I bring that up, I think we need to make sure that lands and the other appropriate departments are have started that process, because things are going to start happening fast, you know. And Jace, I know you can't wait around. You know, you're on a time schedule too, so we need to really assure that all of the appropriate departments are working together to make sure that these gravel pits are established and ready to go. And so just wanted to mention that one time again, Jace, so you're cognizant that, well, as you're preparing these bids, that we're making sure that there is going to be adequate fill and gravel material available for these projects. You know, so just wanted to mention that, because that's going to be a huge opportunity for the tribes to bring in a substantial amount of revenue on the irrigation project. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Len. Martin?
I'd make the motion to approve to award the contract to Native Montana Construction.
Motion by Martin to approve the contract award to Native Montana Construction. Second by Ellie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, show of hands. Unanimous. Thank you, Jace.
Okay, the next our topic of discussion, a little closer to home for Mr. Malater and Mr. Matt. This is the Jocko Canals conversion project, where we're converting the north of the river, so the K Canal system, the sublaterals, not the main canal that comes off the diversion and around the mountains up high when you get down by Shaw Flats. This is all the stuff that feeds off of it. Is it up? Oh, okay. Sorry, Martin. You know, we went through, we're working on final design, putting together the final pieces of a bid package. So what the question, no, it's not this one, it's the other one. No, the CSKT Jocko one. So the question here is, it's about, securing the pipe, as owner procured material. So that means that, with your permission, the Division of Engineering and Water Resources would go out to bid on the open market and buy the pipe and stage it in. And I've even elected to say, hey, we want to bid out trucking to local tribal, or the local community. So we try to get, locals to go pick it up. Potentially, there's 2 mills, and I'm saying this not knowing who the selected mill, and I say mill, it's actually extruded. HDPE pipe is extruded. It's not made in a metal mill like you think of a steel mill. But there's one in Salt Lake City, and there's one over just up in Saskatchewan, north of Plentywood, Montana. So they're 8 hours plus away, give or take. And we would, so there would be an opportunity there for somebody with a semi truck and a flat deck trailer to go get it and bring it back. And then, okay, this is the one. Yep. Oh, can I control it too? Perfect. Yeah. So, so that's what I want to drive you guys through here. So this would be the tribe buying the pipe. And then, there's a process. So I did this when I worked in the oil field. I bought millions and millions of feet of pipe over the years, and you bring it into a yard or secure site. It doesn't necessarily have to be a quote unquote yard. And then you use material transfers. Material comes in, you build an inventory on a material transfer sheet, and then when contractors come get it, you subtract it out. It's just it's inventory management for sure. You guys could all understand, follow inventory management. Okay, there we go. Here's the Jocko Canal system on the left, or the K system that's currently a series of ditches, K10, K10-4, K14, K14-16 runs down White Coyote Road. This slide, I liked it, the mint colored acreage all comes directly off of K. So really we're gonna alter that. More of the entire system is gonna come off the K canal. So we're gonna eliminate the open ditches and have closed pipes. And one of the advantages, if you look at the system on the right, we have 2 main inlets, one on the Tanner property and one up above March Road. So those are the 2 inlets. There's a main backbone that runs between the 2 inlets. It's all 30 or 24 inch all the way up to 48 inch pipe. So at the inlets, it's 48 inch pipe, and then next down in the middle to around right between White Coyote and Dumont here, I think it's 24 inch, but it's pretty thick walled stuff because we're going to have over 100, right at 100 pounds of pressure in that area. To just remind you guys, 4,500 irrigated acres on the K Canal system, currently 26 miles of open canals. We are not going to replace all of the open canal because we're going to still use the end of the canal system for any tailwater to still flow down that canal and hopefully continue to keep the system that's been in place for 100 years will still be receiving water. There's some cottonwood draws. There's also, most likely that water works its way down into the aquifer as well, to answer Mr. Matt's concerns. But the valley system, if you go up White Coyote, Dumont here, Teresa Adams, what you see up in that country, McLeod, that's all going to be put in pipe. So lots of places, the borrow ditch is the canal, as you guys that live down there know, and can be quite hazardous to drive and drive alongside. So we've also designed the system in the future. There was a request from Barfoot and Fisheries to potentially put the lower S canal, which diversion is just below the railroad tracks on the Jocko River. So it's on the south side or west side of the highway and the railroad on this system. So the pipe is big enough to handle adding all those acres from Clinton Beard's place there all the way down to Shaw Flats. Yes, sir.
Jace, do you know, have we identified how many linear feet of pipe we are going to need for the entire project?
You're talking like fifth wide?
Yes.
No, no. So we started this project, about 2 years ago, I think 2 years ago next month, with your guys' permission. And we've been working, we started the Charlotte delivery area project. We don't even have a final number there yet. You can make some rough assumptions, Mr. Two Teeth, but you don't know precisely. I mean, it could be plus or minus 20–30%. But there's over 1,000 miles of canal in the FIP system. So you can make a rough assumption. You're gonna have to buy that or more. In some cases, you may eliminate multiple canals, like I'll give you an example, around Butte, it comes off the Pablo A canal or the Horty feeder is one canal and then it splits. Well, in the future, you may decide that I can put one big pipe down the ridge on the left and feed the ridge on the right with smaller pipe. But you're still gonna have, a certain amount, maybe even more pipe, because you might be actually adding, it's just a cost benefit ratio. Yeah, you'll see the Charlotte layout here in a couple months. We're gonna bring that to you guys once we get through it. Its due date is in late March. So I imagine we'll be coming to you guys in June to show you that one, but, I would say, we're probably looking somewhere between 1,200 and 1,500 miles of pipe. And that's miles, not feet. So, yeah. But whether the entire project's actually put in pipe is a whole nother, another process or another question, which you guys will be driving a lot, because that's going to take a lot of money, a lot more money than the 900 million we were seeded with over 10 years. So,
Go ahead, Bing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hey, Chase, what happened to the liner? I thought there was gonna put a liner in there.
that's a separate project, Mr. Matt. Yep. So the concrete liner portion of the Jocko K Canal is a BA wind funded project, and we're working on it. We've done some preliminary work with more summarily on that. The geomembrane liner is actually still in really good shape. There's a couple spots where the elk and some deer and maybe a bull might have got into it, punctured some holes. But other than that, the Husker liner is what it was. The CME put it in, I think about 2010, 2011. It's still in really good shape. It's still within its lifespan, so we're not too worried about that at this time. But it will, time flies. It's already halfway through its lifespan, so it'll have to be thought of and looked at here as part of our concrete liner rehab. We're going to also look at the Husker liner this spring. So, but yeah, and then beyond that, we're not planning to line any more of the Jocko K Canal. So the first inlet is right at the transition from the concrete liner to the Husker liner, and then the second transition, which actually more water will actually go farther down the system now with the way the new inlets work. But March will be feeding a lot. We'll be irrigating more acres off the March Road inlet than we currently are off that last half of the canal. So yeah, we're kind of changing the way the water's worked its way into the system. So the one thing close to the canal, especially up by McLeod and Teresa Adams, that there'll be reduced pumping needs for those irrigators. I'm sure a lot of you guys know Tom Tanner, so he was happy to hear that, but he wanted to know why the guys at the end of the system, at the end of the system, we have 100 pounds of pressure to work with, and that's just due to the drop in the valley floor versus where the canal level is. So at the very end, Kevin Thomas, he doesn't need a pump anymore. So where it benefits the guy at the end, it's a little, but he won't need as much pump, and that's a fact. So he's still happy. He thinks it's a good thing. We've talked about this before. It makes things easier on FIP, and it also, the system is designed so that everybody can irrigate at once. Which right now, that's not the case. They have to alternate. So, not that they would all irrigate at once, but we thought, well, what if? You don't know what the crop demands will be, how things will change over the next 10, 15, 20 years anyways. But it is designed. That's why it's 48 inches at the inlet. And it's a thick walled pipe to handle the cavitation needs. We're going to have air venting. Everything's going to be designed to keep the pipe full We'll have, the programmable logic controllers at each inlet to maintain the height of the water. And then we haven't ironed all that out yet, but we will work a solution so that the two inlets communicate with the Jocko K diversion that's being built right now, and control the gate opening and closing. Ultimately, we don't want to take water out of the river unless it's for irrigation. We don't need tailwater, right? So that way more water stays in the river. So only what's the irrigators are actually using is what's leaving the river system. So in the long run, I don't want to quantify what that is, but there'll be more water in the river. So, the way I dream this thing working out.
So Chase, I'm all for, us providing as much, as Len said, material, get ahead of it so we have more opportunity for tribal vendors to be able to do this work. Owner purchased, material is, I think, a good thing.
Okay.
The only thing I have a question about on certain items would be if we're stockpiling and buying it ahead of time, far in advance, is where it might be stored, and then also if there's a warranty that goes to that purchase, and how that might tick away if it's not being used for a couple of years, and then you finally put it in the ground, it only has a 2-year warranty, something like that on some of the goods.
Yeah, so all that is what, and if you guys give me permission, I've already tickled the legal team's appetite a little bit, and Dan Decker has assigned Christina Corville to work with me. So we looked at some procurement docs that Morrison Merrill's used in the past for a project of this size or larger. But I think they are all the time. We just to give an idea, to make sure. But if you guys agree to allow me to move forward, we'll really get into it. And that warranty period is exact language that we can add. We can say we want a 2-year warranty, or and somebody may come back and say, well, I won't do that, but I will do a 1 year from installation.
So you can negotiate some of those
yeah,
details.
those are all negotiable terms. Yeah, in my experience, anything's negotiable when you're dealing directly with supplier or essentially the supplier guy, the middleman. He's getting smaller in this because we're able to grab a lot of bigger piece of the actual manufacturers. Historically, this would have been piecemealed out at 12 to 15,000 feet per contract per phase, and now we're going to go and say, hey, I want the full 100,000, 110,000 feet. This is the pipe I need. Most of it's HDPE, which is high density polyethylene. It's directly correlates to the price of oil, and some PVC. There's some sections where PVC makes sense just based on size, and the way what it's serving. But here's the construction phasing. Down here along McLeod and Teresa Adams, that's phase 2. Phase 1 is the inlet off of Marks. And the reason we did that is the first half of phase 1 can be done in season. So there's no interruption of irrigation deliveries. And then we got phase 3, which is down, I forget what that name of that road is, but feeds down to the Dumontier properties. And then phase 4 connects phase 1 and phase 2. That's the finishing of the backbone. Most likely would be done in the winter, hopefully winter of 23-24 is where I see that. Once the backbone's in place, the rest is, smaller pipe. It's all 24 inches smaller, much easier to install in a short period of time. The big pipe, we'll be extremely picky about when we contract when we put this out to bid. We'll be very particular about the subcontractors' quality, the way they fuse, or they call them fusers, the way they fuse the pipe. That'll be, we'll be very particular about that, because that's ultimately the fuse or welding of high density polyethylene is the critical path to a successful system. So we would also stage the potential procurement we're not going to get it all in a window. We're going to stage that out based on what we know as our phased construction. So I think the pipe deliveries are phased out over a year. Construction would then be sequential to first delivery.
Sounds good. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jason, I'm wondering about our subcontractor, our tribal members that might not know some of the techniques Are you making that available to them so that they might be training on those now?
Yeah, what I plan to do, Mr. Dolson, is to actually potentially put something out on my webpage and maybe circulate it in the Chartreuse to like, here's what's coming, and here's the kind of things you need to be aware of. And I'll show you guys some pictures here in a second of some of the stuff I've gathered from our own research and putting together stuff that actually the roads crew did in the past. I mean, so we have some internal experience within CSKT's internal workforce, and some of the tribal contractors on the reservation, they were over North Dakota. They were a part of putting a lot of HDPE water lines over there. So there is some more experience than people would think. Guys that went over and maybe worked on a crew or they weren't the general contractor, but they were a part of that and they understand. So here we've already kind of talked about the owner procured material stuff. CSKT purchases it. We would have to put in some material transfer orders. It's procure the system we're using to do that we're starting to use to do our daily construction management can do that. So there's a place in there where we can keep track of the inventory, and that's the way I've done it in the past. That what you're tracking your daily record management with, you can also track your inventory with. So that's available. And the biggest saving is just eliminating the markup. Everybody passes and buys it for $100 and marks it up, 15 to 40%, passes it on to the us, which is the project owner. Here I talk about some advantages and disadvantages. The one thing I really think it helps is because we took the burden on ourselves as the tribe, it allows the bonding requirements to be a lot lower for potential local contractors who bid on the work. So it's rather than $2.5–3 million worth of material on a phase plus $1 million to $1.5 million worth of labor, dirt work, heavy machinery, they only have to bond the heavy machinery, the non-material part of it. We will put some burden on them for some, filler material and stuff like that, but the pipe itself we would supply that as owner procured material. Yeah, builds capacity for economic development. Indian preference offices, that's what that means. And then, as I think Mr. Toothieff, I'm maybe forward thinking, but it allows us, once we start to build these relationships with the manufacturers, it may allow some opportune purchases to load up, specifically in the big size pipe, because we're going to use a lot of that. And they sometimes, they got material coming at them that they've pre-bought, so they make pipe on spec, sometimes knowing, and then they try to sell it. So they're not as greedy on that as they would be on a contractor's order. So yeah. The disadvantages are there are some, but I think the advantages far outweigh the disadvantages in this situation.
Well, I don't, you already have the money. So
Yeah, we do, and I think Mr. Spar would like to spend some of it. Here's what HDPE looks like, that black tube, and then here you can see on the right there's a pipe with a pipe fused into it. So they have to heat it up. It's very hot. Here's a little mini fuser right here. They wrap it, chain it to the big pipe, and then attach the little pipe. Some of this stuff can be done on surface before you actually put it in the trench. We're kind of ironing out the concept on how to do that. Here's another picture of a littler fuser fusing smaller pipe. I stole this from more summarily. Molly did a presentation, and here's kind of a list of just things that are going to be needed: saddle branches, butterfly valves. Mr. Molitier is probably looking at this, reminding him of his pipeliner days. Here's the Jocko K conversion project. Just to give you guys an idea, this is what the roads crew did. Seth got some CITT money in 2015, and they did this project. And this would be similar. We're gonna have, on the case of our project here, we're gonna have at least 3 feet of fill or earth back on top of the pipe. So it'll allow for basically, it won't be as big a concern. In this case here, I think they only put about 18 inches, so you can actually still see it's a mound out there. This section would be ripped up. We'll reuse this pipe, farther down the project, this PVC, but we're gonna replace this with a lot larger pipe. Originally, we were, one of the alternatives, we were like, we didn't want to touch it, but, then we had to have an additional inlet. There's a whole, it just became advantageous to go ahead and merge the whole system together. To have two inlets rather than 3 or 4, and so, but, we will reuse this material, but this, when it's redone, for those, I think some of you guys might live in this area, but the pipe will actually be, Mr. Tanner will be able to farm over top of the canal, essentially. So there'll be a lot of acreage gained, on some of these parcels. I shouldn't say a lot, but they'll get 20, 30 feet back. So 33 feet by a quarter mile is 1 acre. Yeah, here they are, scraping it back over, but this was an open ditch. Seth's project converted it to a pipe just to Teresa Adams. And then, this is the Tanner Homestead property here on the left and right of the driveway. So how much? Approximately 115,000 feet of pipe. 66,000 feet is in phases 1 and 4, and it's 24 inch to 48 inch. It's big stuff. There's additional 40 plus valves for isolation, air releases, and pressure control valves, pressure release valves. We tried to keep those off the big pipe because a 24 inch, for example, one valve of 24 inch was 22,000, and the 48 inch was almost 100,000. So we said, well, we'll put that on the connector pipe, not on the main pipe. It does the same job. So there will be air vents on the large pipe, but trying to put the pressure release and the isolation valves on the smaller pipe just to cut costs. It cut our valve list value in half. So we did a little market pricing of the pipe alone, and it came out to about 10.8 million. That was in early 2022. Oil prices have come down $20 a barrel since then. So I imagine the price has come down as well. And then the valves and fittings, that's one that if we get out there, we could probably secure all those and store them we could find a warehouse. There's a lot of ways to manage those. They come in on pallets. And, but that's got a greater range the faster we get out. If we can get out to market, it gives us more negotiating power because we need the pipe sooner for installation, or, because we got to do the fusing and stuff. HDPE prices historically follow WTI crude oil prices. Crude's down compared to where it was last year. So at this time, I estimate the savings at 2 to 6 million versus contractor procured material, and also little savings with oil being down. And really what I'm asking for today is your guys' approval to move forward with an owner secured material bid. We'll get bids. We'll do the same kind of diligence, make sure it's exactly what we want. And before I order it, I'll be coming back to you. So you'll see this again, much like you just saw the 31A canal, probably in more detail. But any questions? Terry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Those canals that have ran for years and years, there's leakage in some of those.
Mm-hmm.
So have you identified like springs and stuff that will be lost in these? And are the landowners prepared for their livestock if they don't have?
So on this side of the Jocko, most of the water, if it leaks, goes straight down. Once you get below, I don't know, 4 or 5 feet. You guys have lived down there you've lived in that exact area. Mr. Pitts, you'd understand better than me, but there ain't it's not like Round Butte or Charlotte where it leaks out and runs across the surface because of the heavy clays in the soil. What we will know, we know just from USGS data and Seth's own managing of the water for 30 plus years, Spring Creek will no longer fluctuate with the season. So historically, Spring Creek is at its lowest in the spring. And then as irrigation season brings water into the K Canal system, the height of Spring Creek grows by 20 feet.
Will there be enough pressure down towards the end to be able to gravity flow rather than have to have a pump when you hook
Yeah,
up to it?
yeah, no, so pretty much once you get past Mr. Raybine's main place, so starting around, well, where former, chairwoman Fiant lives, you will not need an irrigation pump anymore.
Okay.
We actually have to pass, and Nick Belcourt's, and there's a corner there as you get to where Mr. Raybine is proposing his gravel pit. At that point, we have to start putting in pressure reduction valves. So at White Coyote, Marks, and down Dumontier Lane, we have to have pressure reduction valves because there's too much pressure. Because we're saying we don't want to have more than 75, 80 pounds delivered to the irrigators. And as you know, if you have 75, 80 pounds, you have a lot of problems on your own, yeah. So there's going to be some pains for some of the guys who have really shoddy, but pretty much takes away the need for irrigation pumps. The one thing the Mint map shows is the majority of the guys up around Sod Farm and they're already coming off. There's multiple lines coming off the canal that are unmanaged, not exactly put in the right conditions for FIP to be able to even do any maintenance around them. So by going to FIP managed inlets, FIP takes on the water delivery factor. Now they can control who gets this, they can manage the system as it should be. And then we will, all the irrigators will get an on-farm delivery turnout. So we'll be able to all the water will be metered, which is the intent of the compact.
And you'll have to have a pretty bright ditch rider manage.
We just need, rather right now, there's 2.5 ditch riders take care of the K canal. In the future, one person should be able to manage it all. And most of his day will be spent probably checking the inlets, but the inlets are going to have tattletales. We're going to put transducers. There's going to be a way to, much like we can watch the water flow through the canals and the air water collection system. We'll be able to do the same and watch what each inlet's seeing, what's coming through the Jocko K diversion. And we'll also be able to see any tailwater from the system will go down past March Road and the old K canal. We're going to leave that in place. A lot of it, I think, has to do with conversations with Mr. Matt. And it also waters some cottonwoods that are have some cultural value to some of the tribal membership that live down there. So we're going to continue to have that. But as the system as FIP gets better at managing it, there'll be less tailwater. Then we can actually force a release down the road. So. Did I answer that question or did I just confuse the hell out of you? Okay,
Go ahead, Bing.
Yeah, one last question, Jade.
yeah.
What about your, turnouts for your irrigation system that's farmers? Are there going to be less than there was before, or what's the story?
So
on that?
the man, I should have thrown a picture in. So the new on-farm turnouts are going to be very much like there's going to be so we're going to have a pipe come off the pipe. The replacement for the canal is this massive, we'll call it 24 to 48 inch pipe. So they're going to come off the 48 inch pipe and it's going to come out. It's going to come above ground. And once it comes above ground, we're going to have a flange right at below ground level. That'll all be steel. And in that steel, we'll have an air release valve. We'll also have a valve to shut the turnout off. And we'll have a water meter. We're down to 2 selection criteria on that. We're going to iron that out tomorrow with Morrison Merrily in Missoula. And then we'll actually have a flange that FIP can blind off. So say, you have an irrigated 80 and so that's what we're going to leave you. Then you're going to tie into that flange connection. And so that we can there'll be a piece that we can take in and out depending on whether you want if you haven't paid your assessed acreage, you haven't done your part as an irrigator and paid your right of use, FIP can blind flange you off and you can't get water, which they can't do that today. Most people even the people who don't pay for water just take water. So that it gives them a level of management that they've lost over the last 20 years. And then that would be your point where you take off and then it'll go back underground or it'll go down and you'll have a way to tie into your surface main line, your subsurface main line, or if you're a flood irrigator, you would then have to have a concrete deal to dissipate the water and get it so it isn't pressurized. But that would just be like a concrete cylinder, probably 2 to 3 or 4 feet OD. And then you'd have a spigot out the side or an exit hole down into your ditch. But that's the way they've been done at Wapato. We went around and we looked at these. So we got Wapato, Colorado River does it that way. They still flood irrigate the vast majority of their acreage at Colorado River. But Wapato has pivots, flood, they got it all. And that's what they do. They have these meters, and then the on-farm user, the irrigator, he makes the decision on how he wants to manage that. But that way everybody has a meter connection. And the turnout design that we're doing for Jocko will be the standard across the reservation. So there won't be a difference from a turnout on White Coyote Road to a turnout on Orchard Hill Road in Round Butte. They'll all look the same. Except for the guys who take a massive amount of water. For example, one of the farms up north of Pablo, they irrigate about 2,500 acres. They have 3 pumps. They would have a customized one because we're not going to force them to have a series of, 8-inch turnouts. So there will be some custom ones, and those will be, they will still have a FIP managed flow meter to tell how much water they're using. But yeah, that would be the only exception. The guys that just have consolidated so much of their irrigation system to one delivery point, they would have a custom. But it would meet the protocols of the on-farm use as laid out within the compact. So, does that answer your question? Good. And I'll bring you guys a approved design at some point if you want. It's if you two still want to go on a little field tour, let me know. We can drive around down there and kick some dirt.
Any additional questions for the owner procured material for the Jocko Canals Conversion Project? Motion by Martin to approve owner procured material. Second by Ellie. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Unanimous. Big
All
step
right.
forward.
Yep.
Congratulate
It is.
you on this. Thank you for
Uh,
taking it on.
Thank you, Chairman McDonald. Yeah, we'll get to work on this, and when we get maybe give you guys a quick update when we're going to go out to bid, and then probably 3 to 4 weeks after that process or the close, we'll come back with a selection, so you guys can look at that
Thank you.
and let us know how you want to proceed at that point.
Okay.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
We're going to take a break. And then we'll proceed with Jordan.
Oh, no. I should have. Oh, no worries, but I grabbed that other one.
Hello?
All right, we'll come back into session from our break. Jordan.
All right, well, Kasukiukiat Tribal Council, it's good to see everyone today. Legislative update's going to be relatively short today, so we have some time to open it up with a food conversation. So we're really excited to have next to me Fred from Texas, and I'll hand it over to Fred, and he can give you an update. There was an exciting meeting that we had yesterday at the Food Sovereignty Center about the garden network, and so anyway, with that, I'll hand it over to Fred.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. I know many of you heard of the zucchini outbreak that happened last summer. People finding zucchini put in their car windows and everywhere, which was shortly followed by a lettuce epidemic. I'm here to take responsibility for part of that. We had a surplus. We did 3 gardens last year, one at the SKC Extension Center, one at actually, we did 4. We intended to do 3. We did one at the forestry greenhouses, and then another one at with the FFA in Ronan, and then added Elmo, and produced about somewhere between 20 and 30,000 pounds of produce on what amounted to a little less than an acre altogether. And people that couldn't eat it all. And so it got distributed through food banks, food networks, food ministries, food to neighbors and friends. And so this year we're kind of excited. We've been asked to come back and reinitiate that particular activity and add 4 more gardens to it, and actually form it into a network that can be not only a production network, but also a distribution network. And so we're working with Dana Hewencorn with that, and the Food Sovereignty Distribution folks. Let's see, what else could I tell you about that? I think what's interesting about the possibility of where we are at the moment is that once you have that much produce, you really have a unique opportunity to be able to do distribution in kind of a different way. And so one of the conversations that we had last night, Casey Lunsford, who's in charge of the Lake County FFA, has an auto mechanics class, an advanced auto mechanics class that is willing to, if I can round one up, find an old school bus and turn it into a rolling produce distribution market, both for people who are in need, but also for people who can afford to pay for it. And that will more than provide for ongoing, will be a self-sustaining garden network at that particular point, because the initial investment, to get fences up and to prep out the property, get the irrigation equipment on site, we use only a drip irrigation system, is a little expensive, by comparison. But once it's in, it's seed and manure and straw, and that's about it. And so it's very inexpensive to maintain. I think one of the things that we discussed that I thought was really interesting, and I just want to share these things with you, kind of let you know what's going on, because there's really, what we found is there's just a tremendous hunger in the community for being able to do this kind of activity collectively together. And the way that or the Victory Garden course is actually a leadership development course and an organic gardening course. So it's really about teaching, looking to see the positive values that can be developed in a community by just looking at them in the garden. So connected to the garden is principles like humility and decisiveness and creativity and potential and decision making and courage and those kind of things. So we just let the experience in the garden create this meaningful dialogue between people to learn about how to build the better parts of who we are as people. Our hope is to do 4 new sites That's the plan. One in Arlee with the CDC there, one in Mission, one in Hot Springs, and one at the Job Corps Training Center. Each of those sites need to have the land secured. Where we're going to put the garden in, be really helpful to get some. I think that you guys could help with that part of the process. Also, maybe with the fencing that goes around it, because one of the things we did learn is deer love salad, and they don't even need dressing. They come in and they will eat pretty much anything that we grow in the garden. So being able to keep them out is one of the major activities that we've got to get underway. But other than that, that's, it's a growing, exciting activity. It's a lot of food, and the underlying motivation is to begin to get younger people involved in a diversified agriculture, because the agricultural producer population in the valley, you all know, it's aging out. The average age of a producer in the valley is, between 65 and 67. And we have to find some ways to begin to engage younger people in agricultural production in order to steward land. So that's kind of what's going on. That's my short report. I hope that is sufficient. And if you have questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Would love to see you guys get out in the gardens. It's only once a week for 2 hours, an hour in the classroom, an hour in the garden, and I promise you there will be more food than you can possibly eat that you can take home and help give away and that kind of stuff.
Any questions? Go ahead, Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Equipment, do you have tiller, rototiller, and tractor?
So we've been fortunate that SKC has made their tractor and tiller available to go to the sites for the initial preparation. But a lot of what we're doing, so this is all organic production. This would all certify at the highest end of certification. And we are trying to move basic gardening practices to a no-till practice, because the worst thing you can do for soil is to invert it. And what that means is basically when we deep plow a soil, we take the anaerobic living organisms and we put them into an oxygen-rich environment, and we take the aerobic bacteria, which is in the top part of the soil, and then we smother it. And that kills the life in the soil. And I think that's one of the big surprises to me was you have beautiful soils, but they are in horrible condition. The living part of the soil is minimal, running somewhere around 0.8% to 1.8% organic matter. And, it should be between 15 and 25% to be optimal. So this is a way to rebuild and regenerate the soil base. And it's competitive. I mean, it is a competitive, viable way to do it. 97% of all Australia's crop production is no-till crop production now.
So how do you deal with the grass if you have sod growing there or weeds?
So
That's usually
mulching is the easiest way to deal with it. In the garden, it's easy to manage with both mulch and a small amount of hand tilling, but generally, it's the creating a bare soil that promotes weed growth. Nowhere in nature do you see naked soil. It will always cover itself up. And so when we go in and we disc it and we turn it over and we make it completely bare, nature is going to do everything in its power to recover it. And it's not a practice. There's a different way, a different approach that we can do with that. And by using mulches, what we are actually doing is we're building that carbon nutrient base in the soil. So one of the things we've been challenging, so we have 4 carrot test plots that we'll do this year for commercial carrot production, and there'll be some mixed vegetables in that. Is learning how to grow that material, lay it down, plant through it, So we're actually growing the mulch. But there are piles and piles of what I would call, it's spent hay and straw that's not usable for feed or fodder. And so the typical practice here in the valley is to burn that eventually. That essentially is burning up the stored energy of the valley. What the valley's produced in the past is sitting there in this old hay material, and then we burn it up. Instead, if we can put that back into the soil in a meaningful way, then all of a sudden we can reuse that energy that's been produced, but essentially recycle it back into the soil in a healthy way. So I know that's a little bit more of an answer to the question than you probably intended, but it is actually it's a living system. It's not just I mean, you can mechanically cultivate, and that works fine, but there's a better practice, and we've done that practice all over the world.
Ellie?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Have you determined the location of the mission garden yet?
I know exactly where we'd like to have it. So there's a piece of property that is behind the community center, right in front of the food distribution center. That hillside right there is where we would love to put it. It's just the right side. It drains well. There's water close by, and so it would be right there where it would make food distribution really easy, right? Harvest it, take it over to the back door, and let them do what they want to with it. We'd love to get that secured, and also get we'd love to find a couple of people, additional people to help host that particular garden. That happens to be the community we live in when we're here in the summertime.
Any other questions? No?
Well, thanks so much, Fred. I just wanted to make sure council had an opportunity to meet Fred and some of the things he's bringing to our communities through the gardening network. So we're really looking forward to getting those set up in the spring.
Thank you, Jordan. And we'll put out a notice this next year to keep your windows up when you park in different places, so that the mysterious zucchini doesn't appear when the outbreak hits, because it's coming.
Good job. Thank you.
And then if we can go into executive, we can start our legislative update.
Okay, we'll move into executive session.
Council, so yeah, just have one item for open session. I'll call Casey Ryan up from NRD. As council's probably aware, last couple of years with the water settlement becoming effective back in September of 2021, been changes going on with NRD staff and specifically the doer. And throughout the years, Seth Makepeace has been the tribe's rep to the compact implementation technical team. And so with Seth's duties changing, and Casey's obviously changing as well, Casey's coming in today to seek council's request to be the tribe's appointee to the CITT, and I'll turn it over to Casey at this point.
Thank you, Dan, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of council. Good afternoon to all of you. As Dan mentioned, Seth has been the CITT representative for the tribes for approximately 5 years now. The Compact Implementation Technical Team is a 5-member party consisting of an appointee from the tribes, the state of Montana, the United States, the project operator, and an irrigator representative. And that group, that team, is responsible for planning and implementing operational improvements, rehabilitation and betterment, and adaptive management of water as it relates to the Flathead Indian Irrigation Project. So with that, Seth has moved into a different role within our division, and I have been asked by our department head, as well as Dan and other parties, to move into that position. So with that, I would request Tribal Council's consideration to be appointed as the tribal representative to the Compact Implementation Technical Team.
Thank you, Casey, for stepping up. Any questions about it? No, I would entertain a motion by Jennifer to approve putting Casey Ryan on the CITT as our travel representative, second by Ellie. Any further discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor? Show of hands. Unanimous.
All right, Casey, thanks for stepping up.
La Manche Pesia, thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, executive? So yeah, Chuck Page and Dan Olson came by my office this morning, presented that topic about down at Buffalo Bridge. So he put in for a equip grant for a pivot. He wants to put a pivot down there, and so he needs water. There's no water there now. The Unitary Water Board, yeah, I don't know. Put a governor on his pump. I don't know. Meter. Well, they're going to meter everything. So yeah. Oh, the lands? Okay. Yep, Mark. Sure. I remember up by Walters, they came in and offered it to us. Council wouldn't buy it. So then they went and logged it. Then they threatened to subdivide it and came back. And we spent even more money for it, minus the timber. And the timber value alone would have paid for the property on the first purchase. Yeah. God, who's holding down the fort?
Department Head of Natural Resources. If you don't remember, first time I've been in here in a while. And, we're gonna talk about, the past year's water compact, issues or things that we have, completed, which I feel is very important. And so I have my, division level staff will be here with me, Rob McDonald to my right, and Casey Ryan is in the back, Seth Makepeace and Pam Dustybull are also here. Just want to say the people that you see behind me are members of our natural resource staff. Most of them are Division of Engineering and Water Resources. A lot of new hires, a lot of new faces, some young people. That's kind of cool to see. Some young tribal members and some older tribal members that you'll see retiring in the next few years. So we're always looking to increase our recruitment and get tribal members in these STEM fields of engineering and water resources, which are difficult fields. But we have SKC that we work with very closely. I work with higher education and tribal ed all the time. And I'm always beating the brush to see who's out there, who's up and coming. We get into the schools. We're doing everything we can to promote these types of fields. So after the compact was passed, and when the then President Trump signed it into law, we began the process of starting to implement that. And that took a lot of work in terms of building up the program, writing position descriptions, writing plans, hiring qualified people, and many of those people you will hear from today. So I'm going to turn it over to Rob McDonald, and he will start the presentation. We hope that you'll be able to watch it, ask questions as needed, and the staff are here to answer any questions and just provide you with information that I think you will find very valuable. So.
Thanks, Rich. And thank you, Council. It's a pleasure to be here today. Rob McDonald, Compact's Implementation Officer. I want to thank Rich for starting us off, and I'll be the final word, but I'm going to bring up various programs to give updates on what they've been able to achieve in the past 12 months and give a sense of what's coming. I think it'd be very clear that there's a lot of activity, and any one of the programs could easily fill 60 minutes, I believe. So we're going to try to be efficient and quick. But if the measurement folks want to come up, Casey and company, I'll turn it over to them and keep going down the line.
All right, Mr. Chairman and members of council, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here and present to you today. To present on 8 programs in an hour is truly a tall task. So you're really just going to see the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, in a lot of the projects that your division is working on. But with that being said, we'll start with the Compact Water Resources team. I'm joined by Brian Hoganson, our water scientist, and Cody Goklish, our program hydrologist. And they're going to talk about some of the projects that they are working on. But before they do that, I wanted to provide our staff with the opportunity to introduce themselves to you. It's an exciting time in our program's history. We have tribal elders such as Steve Ashley and George McLeod, who have been great mentors to me during my time in the program, as well as a lot of really exciting new hires. So with that, I will yield my time to Mr. George McLeod.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm George McLeod, and Steve Ashley and I have been with Natural Resources since it started in 1982. I was with the Water Division, and Steve was working with the Minerals Program. And like Casey said, we have a really young crew now, pretty well educated, and they're going to introduce themselves here in just a minute. But I would just like to mention the people that have worked water in the past. Wade Hendrickson started in the early years. Martin Ashley, Martin Barnaby, Bob McDonald worked for us for quite a while. Mike Hoole, Diane Klein was in it right at the beginning. She ended up doing water quality for quite a while. I know there's more. Craig Padilla, Stan Padilla, Doug McCrae, Dennis Corville. I was saving him for last. Dennis and I worked together for years and years, and we worked closely. He retired, and now we have his two daughters working with us. So with that, I'm going to pass it on to Steve Ashley.
Good afternoon. I'm Steve Ashley. I'm the data management hydrologist. And just quickly, I'll share what we have. We have 94 gauging stations out there on the streams, rivers, and canals. 93 of them are real-time stations that will transmit data via GO satellite to the NOAA base station. And then from the NOAA base station, it's then sent into our server and database via information connections through, the telephone companies. The database that we have is it's an Aquarius database. It also has the time series, which allows us to do work with the stage readings that we bring in and convert it to discharge, acre feet, and also we can do time series for mean dailies for stage and discharge. And then also what we have is the web portal. So once we get the data into the database and we've worked on it, then it's then transferred to the web portal and also to other agencies or other programs that want to use our data. It's been a lot of fun. Like George says, we've been here a long time. There was like 4 or 5 of us in the beginning, and to go from staff gauges in the stream and mechanical meters to bright color screens and the equipment we have today is really amazing. So, the young people that are coming in behind us, they've got a lot of good tools to work with. That's what I have to say. Who's next? Brett?
I'm Brett Corvo. I've been here for about 3 years. I'm a hydrology tech too, and I think it's a great department. So.
My name's Eli Sheridan. Happy to be here. This is my 3rd week. It's an exciting team, exciting time, so pretty happy to be here.
I'm Carter Klinkenbeard. It's my 3rd week as well, and I'm really excited to be here working for you guys.
I'm Catherine Mysak. I started in November. I'm really excited to be here too. I'm originally from Chicago.
Hi, I'm Amanda Corvell. I started working with the monitoring and measurement program back in April of 2016. So I've been there almost 7 years now. There are a couple of our techs that aren't here. So I don't know if you guys want me to introduce them too. Quentin Means and Kyle Schock are 2 semi-new. They've been here for less than a year, both of them. So introduce them as well.
All right. Thank you all very much. Those ladies and gentlemen that you see behind me, they're out in the field 12 months a year, and they truly are the heartbeat of our program, and they build the foundation on a lot of what we're going to talk about here in the next couple slides. So with that, I will pass it off to Cody Goklish, our program hydrologist, to talk about his highlights from the last year.
Secretary is Cody Goklish, McDonald's, Len Two Teeth. Thank you. My name is Cody Goklish. I am the program hydrologist for the Water Monitoring and Measurement Program. White Mountain Apache tribal member of Eastern Arizona, Fort Apache Indian Reservation. I haven't really formally introduced myself to tribal council, so hello. I am here before you today to present the more significant projects we have completed in 2022, aside from maintaining the tribe's robust gauging network. And we'll start with the reservoir monitoring project. The reservoir monitoring project is a compact implementation technical team project, which advises real-time reservoir elevation monitoring data to better inform FIP reservoir management of 14 reservoirs all over the lower Mission Valley Basin. This project was rolled out in 3 phases, starting in 2020 and ending last year, fall 2022. Current reservoir data is available on the web portal platform and ranges from the Upper Jocko Lakes down through Pablo Reservoir and up to the Little Bitterroot Lake. The next project is the Jocko Seepage Study, K Canal Seepage Study. This study began in 2021 and data collection was completed in 2022. Thank you. This project aims to quantify canal seepage rates on prospective FIP canals that serve the central Jocko Valley area near Arley, Montana. This study collected continuous 15-minute readings coupled with stream flow measurements commanded by our field staff to capture high-resolution data to help inform the tribe's efforts to reallocate saved water per the pipeline conversion project in the Jocko Valley. And that completes my portion of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Cody. And building on that, so the results and the fruits of that labor is a really exciting technological development that Steve talked about, and that is that once upon a time we used to have rulers in the canals that staff would physically go out and measure. And now all of that data is available in up-to-the-hour intervals on our website that anyone in the public can access and look at that data in real time. Here are 2 tools that we've built into that website this year. So the first is a dashboard on our website that it shows current irrigation reservoir levels. So this is exciting because this has been a key missing piece of the puzzle for the irrigation project. For a number of years, they had access to stream and canal data. Now we've been able to fill that in and provide them with real-time information on where water storage is across the reservation and allow for better integrated water management. And the second tool that we've rolled out is a real-time river diversion allowance accounting. So river diversion allowances are those blocks of water that are allocated for each irrigation service area across the FIP. And what we have developed is a tool that allows the irrigation project to look at that water accounting in real time so that they can plan for success throughout the irrigation season. These RDAs don't actually kick online until 5 years after the effective date. They're phased in by service area, so they start in the Mission Valley South 5 years after the effective date of the compact, which would be September of 2026. But we wanted to put this tool out there well in advance of those RDAs becoming enforceable to try to provide FIP to have the tools to be successful on day 1. With that, I'll pass it to my colleague, Brian Hoganson, to talk about his water management planning.
Thank you, Casey. My name is Brian Hoganson. I'm honored to be here today to speak to you on some of my job duties this past year. Been a reservation resident almost all my life. I'm a member of the Little Shell Tribe of Chippewa, east of the mountains. And I'm just really excited and happy to be part of this team that I work with. And would like to share just a little bit about my side of what I'm working on with the Jocko Seepage Canal conversion project, and also kind of some other things that keep me busy in my shop with Casey and crew. So regarding the conversion project, the canal to pipeline conversion project, Cody's team really has done a good job these last 2 years collecting data that shows us an estimation of the leakage that occurs through that area. And where my job kind of ties into that is I'm looking at trying to come up with numbers that we can defend that will show the amount of water that we could conserve with this project and how that can boost the stream flows to support aquatic habitat. So my job is really to analyze the data, really get a close eye on it and make sure that I'm holding up to the standards that are going to be expected of us to prepare and prepare an water reallocation report that will support the work that Cody's been doing. So that keeps me busy. That I expect to have a report written based on this data during this spring. We'll have some numbers to share. So that one's really at the forefront of my duties at this time. Let's go to the next one. Other problems that we seek to solve in my group are areas where we see kind of mismanagement of water, really kind of not really proper use of water at times, and we think about ways that we can improve that delivery of water and also boost the in-stream flows. So we look at inefficiencies. We have a couple examples here, and we try to apply solutions or else work with consultants to work towards solutions to these problems. So basically, yeah, the next one shows kind of two solutions to these particular problems. One would be kind of looking at waste flow and ways that we can use that waste flow to support wetland habitat. The other one would be just better structures that can also give us measurement of water at those areas. So I'm part of the team and proud to be part of the team working to solve some of these problems. So thank you.
Thanks, Brian. I'll close it out for our team and talk about the CITT and next steps. So with that, Article 4G of the Compact creates a team called the Compact Implementation Technical Team. And that is a 5-member team that consists of representatives from the Confederated Salish and Kootenai Tribes, the state of Montana, the United States of America, the project operator, and an irrigator representative. And the responsibilities of that group include planning for and implementing a lot of improvements to the irrigation project, which include operational improvements and also the rehabilitation and betterment of the FIP. And that group is also called out to adaptively manage the water of the reservation. And that is a continuous decision-making process to ensure that water is appropriately allocated in between the various elements of the tribal water right, including minimum of forcible flows, as well as flow towards the irrigation project. We have a lot of work coming up in the next year, but just a couple highlights for council to look forward to. We have an ongoing responsibility for water management coordination and for project coordination through the CITT. The tribes have played a great leadership role in that. A number of the projects that we've talked about today are CITT projects where the tribes have taken the lead, and we will continue to stay there. We have a couple exciting science studies coming up, including looking at surface water, groundwater interaction on the Jocko River, continuing some of the work that Seth Makepeace did going back to the 90s. We're dramatically expanding our groundwater monitoring network, including in the Jocko Valley, so that we can really gather great baseline data, quantify the tribal water resources, and understand as we begin to develop some of these rehabilitation and betterment projects across the reservation and have solid data on how that affects water resources. We'll continue to do a lot of the technical work that Brian mentioned to support all of the compact projects that we're going to hear from in the next couple minutes. And then, of course, we are always looking to develop our staff, to build capacity within our program, and to try to create mentorship opportunities and internships to support our tribal members and create great jobs for them. So with that, thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm happy to answer any questions, or we can defer to the end.
Go ahead, Lynn, then I have a quick question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the council, and Casey and staff, thank you for being here today. Very interesting. Casey, every time you bring in a presentation, I learn something new all the time from you. So thank you. I was sitting here thinking about, you mentioned that, we have a website now where we're able to monitor, in-stream flows and things like that. So I'm just kind of curious from a, I want to say a flood management standpoint, but I know in the springtime, I often, think about the spring runoff and the activities that occur from that. So on this website, are we able to monitor, CFS of all of the major streams coming off of the Mission Mountains? And so we could look at this and say, hey, this is starting to build up here. We're going to start seeing some damages and things like that. Do we have something like that on the system now?
Yeah, that's a great question, Mr. Vice Chairman. So we do. So that website is publicly available. It can be utilized by anyone. It is extensively utilized by the irrigation project. In fact, if that website goes down, I get a phone call within 3 minutes. They really take advantage of that. And it is a great tool. It publishes to the internet once per hour, so it is near real-time data. And that is flow at more than 90 gauges across the reservation. So it is, it's a great tool, and we are excited that it's being utilized, and we continue to seek opportunities to increase its utility and make it a more powerful tool for all users going forward. Thank you.
Casey, the council had concern and provided direction to do maybe develop groundwater protection zones, one for the Jocko area and the other one for the geothermal area of Hot Springs. Just wondering where that's at for studies.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Mr. Chairman. That's a great question. Seth Makepeace and I are currently in discussion with several consulting firms and are, well along the way on that process. In terms of the tribes, we have chosen, just because we have such a breadth of knowledge and experience, the tribes are going to take the lead on data collection. The Jocko River groundwater study, for example, is one of those things that we'll be doing this summer to advance that effort. In addition, Brian has now deployed 6 wells in the Jocko Valley that are monitoring groundwater levels, and that's at 15-minute resolution. We have a network of 28 groundwater gauges right now that are read quarterly, but having this incredibly high resolution data is going to provide great baseline information, and it is also going to help us to really be able to solidly defend our understanding of the tribal water resources.
So I know there's already been some requests for the geothermal issuance of actions. So, so you haven't, you're in the midst of contracting with somebody for that?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that's correct. So we currently have an open contract with specific focus on the Hot Springs area. We are working with a consultant on finalizing a scope of work that will advance into some data collection this summer, and we anticipate that that will mature into a petition in the fall.
Okay. Go ahead, Bing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hey, I always ask this to Chase all the time. I always ask him about groundwater issues and surface up there in the Jocko Valley, especially with the wells, with the work being done on the canals and whatnot. I just wonder, if your studies and everything, with hopefully down the road, or now you can see what's might happen with those wells down there. People are always asking, my well going to go dry with all this work that's going to be done with the canals and whatnot? We're not going to have the seepage we get from those canals up there. So, with your studies here, I was just wondering, what you're going to be able to find out about, how much is that going to seepage going to be less than what it is now.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Councilman Matt, and it is a good one. The Jocko Valley has, the aquifers there have benefited from artificial recharge due to canal seepage for over 100 years now. And as a result of that, people have come to expect groundwater levels that are higher than they would naturally be. In advance of some of the rehabilitation and betterment projects that will seek to conserve water, we are aware of those concerns and taking them very seriously. In advance of that, Seth Makepeace did a significant amount of work since the 1990s, including some modeling studies to get at what the precise effect of that would be. There have been modeling studies done. With that, we want to increase our understanding of the water resources in that area. We're going to do a couple things. Number one, we're going to make sure that we have excellent and defensible baseline data so that we can monitor the projects going forward. Secondly, Jay Smith has phased that project in particular into multiple phases. That will allow us to adaptively manage the project and check in at each step along the way. And if we need to do a course correction for any reason, we reserve the ability to do so. Go ahead, Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Len kind of brought this up. I was thinking about that spring runoff. I see your one slide showed a culvert and then cement backing there and then the washout around it. When you repair those, do you anticipate, some of those culverts aren't big enough to handle that. So how do you address the next runoffs? I know Dublin Gulch this last year took that culvert out, took part of that road out. I remember Perma going up Camas Prairie, they had a spring snow flow and came down and took part of the highway out. I remember seeing that one culvert shoot clear across the flathead to the south side of the river. And maybe you can't anticipate, but I'm just thinking when you showed that slide, I was thinking, what have you crafted to, do you have some type of method that you build us to handle that type of overflow?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Councilman Pitts. And Jay Smith can probably touch on this as well. But just very briefly, we are aware that climate change is impacting our reservation. And we are all keenly aware that we've seen extreme storm events, even just in the last couple of years, Dublin Gulch being a great example, and other extreme runoff events. With that being said, the irrigation project, much of it was built 100 years ago for using technology from 100 years ago, designed for a climate that existed 100 years ago. And so with that, in rehabilitating the irrigation project, not only are we able to just simply repair failing concrete, but Jace and the other engineers in our program are able to incorporate things like climate resilience into their design to try to design structures that are going to last for a significant period of time and will also be resilient in the years to come. That also provides not only for climate resilience, but if you think about places like the Jocko River, where we have structures that are absolutely critical to the health of the bull trout habitat above, it also provides for a level of cultural resilience as well.
Any other questions for Kiki? None? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all of your time, and I will pass it to my colleague, Chase Smith, with the Irrigation R&B program.
I hope our leadership takes comfort in knowing that that's the team that will be able to tell us the impact that the projects have on efficiency levels. So we know we can manage what we measure. And my personal belief is we're in pretty good hands. This is the Jay Smith, Seth Makepeace. I'll let them introduce themselves.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of council. Good to see you guys again. So we're going to talk a little bit. I had Seth come up because a couple of these projects are, he's the main player, and I just assist him. The current project overview, same slide as last year. I just wanted to highlight this year the projects with a fish next to them have a heavy hand or a real fish focus. So the Headworks projects all are incorporating fish passage. Some of them for the first time ever in the history of that diversion. Tabby will talk about the Lower J, but we're doing some really cool work there in her program. And we talked about Jocko Canals already today. Falls Creek, Jocko K Headworks, and the majority, 31A Canal Chute and the pumping plant are all BIA wind funded at this point. So those are still BIA dollars. At some point, when the Falls Creek and 31A are fully funded, the others will be adjoined at some point. But the pumping plant is, I put the little sun next to it because it's kind of a climate resiliency project. We got to move more water. Seth can talk about that if you guys want, but as part of the compact, we knew we would need to move more water with the pumping plant. So currently unit 2, the shafts, the impeller, the motor, both the rotor and the stator are over in Spokane at a machine shop. And we're going to begin remachining, overhauling those for a lack of a better definition. The last time they were completely removed from the plant was 1987. And for material that was founded in, or created in 38 and 39, those, pre-World War II, so that's a pretty significant run life. I will add that the Bureau of Reclamation is working on new impeller designs, and we will hopefully have that, the first phase of that, so the first prototype of that in 2 years. So, and there's a lot of opportunity there. Those impellers come from the 30s, and if you're a history buff, and I am, we learned a lot about impellers in the last, 80 years, submarines, battleships, and oil tankers and whatnot. So, we're through Charlotte. Charlotte planning area will have that comes to fruition here in March.
Yeah, March, April, May.
March, April, May. That's just been a planning at this point. So kind of master planning. I'm sure we'll come in and present to you guys. We'll have a big open meeting post your showing you guys what the findings are and with the Charlotte community, and then we'll start to generate projects based on that those findings. So we'll be sharing that in the near future. And the one on here that hasn't been kickstarted yet, but is Placid, the headworks in the canal that bring water from the Placid Lake Basin into the Upper Jocko. For those of you that have been over the top into the Sealy, you know that you see the canal, you drive right over the top of it. Here's project timeline. It's shifted since last year. Currently, we're up here. We're constructing the Jocko K diversion. You can see we got Falls Creek on here, 31A Canal Chute, which you guys awarded this morning, will get constructed this year. Hopefully this spring, but if not, we'll get it done as soon as irrigation season's over this fall. I don't see the bridges on here. So the North Fork Jocko Bridge, we've pulled out of the North Fork package to expedite, to increase access to the, for Falls Creek construction and for the North Fork diversion, Tabor diversion construction. Lower J will probably fall in the 2024 timeline. Just got a pipeline of projects coming out the door here. Yellow's construction, to give you guys an idea, you see here, and then out here in 27, 28, I think you see Kicking Horse Dam, which Greg will talk about here in the near future. Jocko K, I think you guys all know where it is. This is the original, the pre-demo. This is what Jocko K had been for over 100 years. This was actually the Google Earth shot. It was taken, I think, August 15th, we determined. So you can see this, the guys that already got in here, Dick Anderson, they cleared and grubbed the spillway. So right now we've got a cofferdam across the river, and the water is actually running down the spillway. This has all been riprap. This was before they brought in the riprap and rocked it all up real good. Most of this, the old Kiwanda screen has been demoed now. The new diversion is being poured. I'd say they're 35% complete with the pours. The Kiwanda screens are on site. So things are really coming together to be completed by April 15th to deliver water down the K Canal. So. Lower J is just below the Ravalli Highway 200 interchange. I'll let Tabby talk more about it. This will be our first rock fish ramp. So it'll look a lot more natural in the river system. We'll have a little inlet concrete structure that has an inlet bay that'll pass over some hemi screens. And then from that, the water will be piped basically alongside the current entry road. We're going to bore the railroad and the highway and tie it into the existing Lower J Canal down the road, down along the highway. So all that open ditch that exists will be reclaimed and restored. Tabby's got a great plan for all that they're working on, so. Tabor, so here we are, here's the structure. 15-foot wall dam in the middle of the North Fork of the Jocko River. Here's it with no, with bypass, so they just got the gate open over on the right, letting sluice of material and fish passage. And then here's it during irrigation operations. Some more pictures. We are near selecting a CMGC, so a construction company to join us and the engineering firm and finishing the designs. We're at 60%. So this will help us determine the constructability at this site and really work with the engineering firm, which we awarded to McMillan out of Boise. They worked on the Jocko K headworks as well. We've been really happy with their work. They worked really a lot with Barfoot on the fishery side, and it's going to be a really cool rock fish ramp with really specific fish passage objectives. We planning to show that to them when we award.
I'll have to.
Yeah.
The amount will be.
Yeah, the amount will be over 250,000. So you guys will see we'll show some drawings and stuff then. I didn't want to, or show you guys 3 weeks in a row. So, Falls Creek, this is the current structure. It's essentially replacement in kind. The gate will be different this time around. We're going to replace the wood slats with steel. Otherwise, the concrete's almost identical. It'll have an internal weir instead of an external. But yeah, very similar structure. North Fork Jocko conversion, or North Jocko conversion, K Canal system we just talked about this morning. Just some pictures to remind you guys. Yep, the existing system and then the new system on the right with the pipeline versus open canals. I will remind that a lot of the canal system will remain in place until after the pipeline system is commissioned and operating. So, if we were to groundwater recharge, it would still be possible if that's what is necessary. 31A canal chute. You guys awarded this morning. Here's some stuff. These are the most recent photos of the pumping plant components. You can see up here on the upper left. That's the stator. They cleaned it up a little. They cleaned it up. It's waiting to be recoated and some refurbishment to a couple pieces. You can see the picture in the lower left is the impeller shaft, and the impeller still in its housing at the pumping plant. Over here on the right on the trailer, I can't really see because this is in the way, but you can see it sitting on the back of the truck, waiting shipment to K&N and Spokane. And then here's the rotor laid on its side at the machine shop. And you can see these leads coming out of it. We're going to replace those. Those were actually grounding. And so we had an issue with that that we didn't expose until we actually took it apart to look at it. So, once we remedy the situation for that, we'll retrofit the two existing motors with that solution as well.
Sure, turn.
Good afternoon, Chairman McDonald, council members. I'm just going to put the icing on the cake for Jace. So we have 12 projects going on in rehabilitation and betterment in design, or in the case of K Canal, under construction. And so just maybe things that are overlaps to reemphasize for interest level. The Jocko K Canal, they're putting the foundations in right now for the fish ladder. And so that'll be an exciting fish passage structure. The North Fork Jocko is 30% designed, and we are going to bring a general contractor on board to help us take it to final design and construction. And that's a very large project, looking like an $18 to $20 million project. The Charlotte planning area, we will complete the plan the first week of April. We will take the team that you've met many of and review it. We will finalize the plan on the first week of May. We will bring it into the council. Then we will hold a public meeting in Charlotte, and then that sort of end caps that project. So that we'll make sure you're aware of our public engagement there. So in terms of the groundwater management areas, I just want to bring a point of clarification. We have engaged a consultant and they prepared conceptual geologic models for the Camas geothermal area and the Jocko Valley. The next step at this point is that we are going to take that consultant, which is Newfields out of Missoula, and they're going to advance the work in the geothermal area to complete the technical work so that we can prepare a petition, if the council chooses, to the UAMO board. Importantly, the next phase of work, the public in Hot Springs will become aware of our work. We'll have to do well inventories and people marching around doing activities on the ground. That's where the Camas geothermal area is. The Jocko Valley, we kind of are going to take a bit of a detour and go back to our water rights groundwater consultant who did very good work. And we are going to develop an update to the groundwater flow model. Then we are going to prepare scenarios of what ifs. And we are going to take those scenarios and then, if the council chooses, prepare a groundwater petition for the Jocko Valley. Because we have so much work done in the Jocko Valley, we hope to finish the technical work this fall. It's just, it's the pace we can work at. I plan to put in a council request to visit with you about the Jocko Valley area because it's a big deal. And what do we want in the Jocko Valley? How do we want to push development in the Jocko Valley? And so I'll be shortly putting in a request to just visit with you separately so we can hear your thoughts and then we can translate that into a technical work product that hits the target for us. And so I just wanted to give you a little update. I know it's been coming up a bit. So that's where that's at. We're working on it. We're a shade short staffed, so things get a little behind. And then, am I supposed to talk about water rights? Yeah, okay. So we have started a NRD, we've restarted an NRD water rights office. And Amanda Spencer is here, a recent SKC graduate, and then Eric Hull. So we have two staff members. One of the activities they're undertaking, Amanda specifically, is working with Chris Corville and Pam McDonald to register uses on the mitigation land and the wetlands. We're also working on some of the in-stream flow things, but importantly for questions the council's receiving is we are preparing a little package of information to bring to the council on how we might handle flathead system compact water requests from tribal or non-tribal members to utilize that water, whether it be down at Buffalo Bridge or up on Flathead Lake. So we're sort of preparing a flow chart and a discussion package for you. Eric in our office will have that done next week. We'll be meeting with the legal department and then we'll finalize that thinking piece and come into the council with that. So we have developed a water rights office. So yeah, so and am I doing the strategic plan? Sorry, yeah, okay. So we are the team is trying to create, we're calling it an implementation plan now. So we come in here and bombard you, right? And it's a lot of stuff. You got a busy group. We are trying to develop a short, somewhat similar to your annual reports, a implementation plan, a big picture plan, a visual plan, a short plan that describes what we're thinking about, what we're doing, how we're implementing rehabilitation and betterment, see it compact implementation technical team, mitigation, and all of those things. So we're working on that activity and I can't say when we'll have it done, but we're working fairly hard on it. And we hope to have it done by, let's say, early summer in some sort of draft form and hopefully sooner. But, so that'll be something you can take to the membership and you can understand our thinking at your, in a more visual and at your own pace way. We've been calling it a strategic plan. I think we might shift it to, an implementation plan. So it'll describe our look ahead for rehabilitation and betterment, and it will prioritize things. So that's an activity that we're working on also. And our water rights office is also working on off-reservation water rights. And specifically, we're working in the Blackfoot Challenge, and we are starting to undertake the thinking for what we call a Milltown strategic plan, which is the upper Clark Fork area where the tribes are co-owners of the 1904 Milltown water right, which at a state level is got tremendous amount of curiosity going on. That's another strategic implementation type plan that we're working on off reservation. So we are already getting requests to involve ourselves in developments to protect the co-owned water right in the Bitterroot Valley. And it's making my hair stand on end because it's the city of Stevensville wants to expand their water rights. And so we're trying to sort through what to do and things like that and bring that to the council. But so off-reservation water rights is also an area where we're actively working and trying to cover the bases there. So thank you. Yeah.
One question, Seth. Looking at the I guess the Charlotte planning area and planning for this particular thing. So in thinking the big picture of water sources where you get water for operation irrigation projects. So for this particular planning area, there's no reason that we would ever pump out of the river to service this area.
The construction of the Flathead System compact water, which is this block of water from Hungry Horse and the Flathead River and Lake. The concept was developed with a pumping plant in the Flathead River at Crow Creek. So often a water planning study, we create a concept, a storyline. The storyline was a very large pumping facility where Crow Creek and the Flathead River intersect. We're not proposing that idea. That said, we are likely at some future date to come into the council and talk about expanding the existing or creating a new Flathead pumping plant at the existing pumping plant, which is up in the Polson SQK Dam 4 Bay area. So we're likely to explore that topic, but a new pumping plant at Crow Creek is not on the table at this time. No, we're not looking at that. We have a grand vision for Charlotte. Whether we accomplish it or not is another question, but yeah.
Thank you. Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council, and thank you, Seth. I'm trying to derive a number of questions here regarding the irrigation project, but one thing I've always been thinking about is our water resources coming in from the north, Mill Creek specifically. Hubbard Dam, which is administered by the BIA, has caused substantial damage to a lot of the landscape up north. And I'm just kind of curious to know, are we going to start any kind of restoration efforts on how we're going to address that, and and how we can maybe even take a look at taking ownership of Hubbard Dam and administering that.
Councilman Two Teeth, I don't want to steal Tabby Espinoza's thunder, but I think in terms of planning areas, because I like to think that way, and we're all doing that at some level. We have a planning area that starts at Mill Pocket down below Mill Creek and goes all the way up to Hubbard. And we haven't activated any work there, but Tabby Espinoza will be our project lead. And what we want to accomplish in that area is we want to look at Mill Creek and try to slow runoff down because the Chippy Fire accelerated runoff. And that's why the Mill Creek irrigation diversion has failed 4 times since that fire. So we want to do that. We want to think about that at this point. We don't have plans yet. We want to rebuild the Mill Creek diversion. We want to look at the Camas A Canal, which is the big dam across the river before the tunnel, which probably a council field trip went there. We would like to get fish able to move across that structure. And then we're very interested in going up to Hubbard Reservoir and restoring that Briggs-Redmond erosion feature that we took the council to that is somewhat shocking, actually. And Greg, so that's a planning area that is in our sights. We aren't there yet. But Tabby might speak more directly to that. Greg Wilson could speak to ownership of Hubbard Dam. It sits on that ranch's property, number one. I am a Flathead River Ranch or whatever it is. But also, I'd love to sell you my old truck. You know, Hubbard Dam is maybe not a good thing to own at this time, but it's turning out that the concrete is in a state of degradation, and you'd want to be careful about liability. I can't really speak to it more than that. That's a big topic that would take some prep time. Yeah. But it's not in A+ condition. Yeah. So yeah.
Is it a wood truck or 4-wheel drive or?
George's family got my last truck.
All
So
right.
I don't know. I told him the transmission was going, so I was upfront about it. But yeah.
It's the way they like them.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you guys for your time again today.
Thanks,
Much
Jason.
appreciated,
Thanks,
ladies
Steph.
and gentlemen of the council.
I'm glad these two could warm you up. We have safety dams and restoration. I think we're about halfway through, but long over our time. If that's a concern, you should know. Greg?
There you go.
It's one of those days. You have to
Pretend it's a
have
casino
chairman-
machine. You know, push the red button.
Oh, I'm good at pushing buttons. Thank you, Chairman and members of Tribal Council. This afternoon, just a brief overview of safety of dams work under the Water Rights Compact. We have 4 dams that are currently in various stages of planning and design. And I'll touch on Hubbard Dam at the end, if that's council's desire. Like anything else, our Safety Dams program is looking at obviously rehab and betterment to 100-year-old facilities. And a lot of the work is technical, replacing the gatehouse in the reservoir and the pipe through the dam, and then improving the stability of the dam to withstand earthquake activities. Along with that, we also have the need to recognize all of the various tribal elements associated with these dams, being restoration, wildlife, wetlands, as well as cultural and recreational elements. And so Kicking Horse Dam has advanced into what's called the final state of final design, where we've taken all the various aspects of the dam, not just technical, but the cultural, environmental side of things, and have honed in on reducing impacts during construction, as well as minimizing permanent impacts that generally exist when we modernize these dams to follow safety of dams guidelines under current protocols. And that means we do have to have a a further boundary downstream of the dam to help us with the various types of safety elements, drainage systems, ensuring we can inspect the dams and ensure that any of the concerns that are part of guidelines that we follow are addressed and dealt with. So the kicking horse will look a little different than you see. And this kicking horse dam photo just shows the various elements of activities that are part of this rehab and betterment at the dam. And recently we had been having more dialogue with Seth during the Shiloh planning area on what we want to accomplish in improving the elements of this design such that it provides a potential betterment for the irrigation system as time goes on. Won't go into the details, but it was unfortunate that we got so far down the road with design at Kicking Horse Dam before the Shiloh plan area kicked in, but we're diligently working to progressively get our design complete with the recognition, with dialogue with Seth and with Reclamation that the proposed improvements will definitely provide future benefit to the Shiloh planning area. The next project that's on the radar is Mission Dam. And again, the initial kickoff meeting that we had last year with our resource specialists and cultural committee members was kind of preparing for what would be future discussions on how things would change at the dam, not just the improvements to the piping through the dam, but also all of the impacts downstream of the dam that's would affect the irrigation system. So we are consciously looking towards some planning efforts on what various types of improvements downstream can be brought forward to everyone within the resource community, as well as the cultural committee, on what we envision as some potential changes, improvements, but also generally speaking, what kind of impacts there would be downstream that most likely would be a permanent impact. Obviously, we don't want to go into these projects with a recognition that any type of footprint is acceptable for improvements. We want to recognize how we can minimize and reduce any potential impacts that are temporary for construction, as well as what remains permanent afterward. Third project, and third and fourth and fifth projects, upcoming projects that we have is continuation of work at Crow Dam, which was looking at putting in a new outlet works or modifying the existing outlet works. Upper Dry Fork Dam is similar to Kicking Horse Dam and Mission Dam as far as new outlet works, but also providing more stability on the downstream end to withstand seismic loading. And downstream work is generally putting in a large compacted earth fill on the downstream toe of the dam, just as a bookend to keep shaking from blowing out the toe of the dam. And finally, Tabor Dam, there's been work that has been ongoing up there for several years, different phases of work that most recently was injecting grouting around the outlet works pipe to fill in voids. Our next steps are to go to issue a materials procurement package to get pipe stored, and then eventually putting in new pipe through the existing tunnel of the outlet works, and putting in different types of gates inside the outlet works, such that we basically are modernizing the dam, but we're not doing as much excavation to make this work happen. And I guess that's it real briefly on the rehab and betterment for these projects that are on the radar. For Hubbard Dam, back to Vice Chairman Tuti's question, Hubbard Dam is in the same inventory that I'm responsible for. It is owned by BIA, but not only Hubbard, but the rest of the Flathead dams are being maintained and improved through the self-governance compact with BIA. Hubbard Dam is currently going through some installation of monitors, adding monitors to the dam because of its condition. And that will be ongoing for the next couple of years for installation of enhanced monitoring as well as the data being collected to determine how it's really behaving throughout the year, how much movement and how much freeze thaw is affecting the concrete itself. So it's definitely on our radar. It has not been considered part of the rehab and betterment. And so any funds associated with the current activities of Hubbard Dam have been through BIA funds, which we had carried forward through the years. We are just now transitioning to the dams, except for Hubbard, to fall under the rehab and betterment as years go on. One thing to note on Hubbard Dam and the uniqueness of its location, as Seth brought up, Hubbard Dam is not on this private property, which is Flathead Ridge Ranch. There's actual survey around a portion of the dam and up into the reservoir that is tribal property. So we have a separation between our tribal property and the dam as it falls within the boundaries of Flathead Ridge Ranch. And I've been working with Flathead Ridge Ranch Security Officer Brian Summers on ongoing activities at Hubbard Dam. So far there hasn't been an issue with our continued efforts to monitor and look at improvements at the dams, and I hope that continues in the future. And I would say if there's any questions, I'll continue and have Tabby take forward her presentation.
Sounds good. Tabby?
Oh, what?
She's got the right button.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tabby Espinoza. I work in restoration, and I have Victoria White with me. You can introduce.
It's good to see everybody today. I'm a restoration technician and I work for Tabby.
And another member of our program is Taryn Bushy. She's our specialist who does all of the NEPA and consultation and permitting for all the projects. So the program has been in existence since the compact passed about a year and a half ago. And so I'm just going to highlight two of the projects that we've been focusing on, but know that there's a lot coming down the pipes, including Mill Creek. We're going to this spring initiate some field data collection efforts there to just start to understand the whole area and the problems that exist. So I'm just going to talk about two projects though. So the first one is going to be Lower J, which Jace talked to you about a little bit. This project is on tribal property. It's a fisheries property that is managed under a BPA easement for fisheries habitat. So we knew we were going to undertake this diversion reconstruction project. And so we thought this was a good opportunity to take a step back and think about what could be the bigger picture benefits of this project beyond just the irrigation infrastructure. So the river has a lot of problems here. It comes underneath the highway and the railroad and gets real constricted, and then it has to go through the diversion structure there. And so there's some erosion issues, and the river itself is just real confined. So we saw this up as an opportunity to restore the floodplain there. So you can see this graphic is just conceptual. We're about 90% on the designs, but this is kind of like the bigger picture concept for the whole site. So we're going to reactivate some of those existing swales that were maybe old river scars to bring water out back onto the floodplain, which had been converted to a hayfield. And we're hoping to get enough water in there that we can support woody vegetation and just some habitat enhancements. And then some of the things have changed. So this graphic is a little bit old, so some of the features have changed, but generally this is accurate. The actual canal is going to be, all the water is going to be taken into a pipe, so it would just be abandoned. And so we thought we could, in order to not have to mitigate for that as a lost waterway under the Army Corps regulations, this will benefit to keep it alive as a side channel, but it's also going to provide a lot of habitat benefits. So keep that feature alive as a side channel, and then just kind of regrade the banks to make it function more like a little stream. And then spread some water across there's that old hayfield down below, spread some more water across that and get the willows to come back in that area. And then there's some bank work. There's some gabion structures there that are actually built out of some mine waste, and the adjacent bank is built out of mine waste as well. So we'll take out those mine wastes that are right next to the river and relocate them back on the kind of high and dry slopes, and then replace that with more of a living bank. So that'll be a better habitat for fisheries. And then there's also some riprap down on the lowest end of the river there. On river left, there's some riprap that we'll replace with more of a living bank structure. And then we'll also do some wetland creation down at the end. And that's more of just compensatory mitigation for the Army Corps regulations and our internal shoreline regulations. So that's one project that we have coming down. Hopefully we're going to start construction on that next winter, as long as all the permitting and NEPA is done. The other project that I'm going to highlight is the Kicking Horse Dam, which I've been working really closely with Greg on. He mentioned that we had done a lot of back and forth with the design process to minimize the impacts there. So our initial estimates of impacts were as high as 16 acres of wetland impacts. And we've gotten it down to 4.5 acres of wetland impacts, which is a big difference. And that was a significant effort. And now we're at the point, now that we've minimized the greatest extent we think we can, we're at the point of thinking about mitigation. So these graphics here are just concepts. Nothing's finalized yet. We have worked closely with the wildlife program on this project because this area, the whole area is managed as a wildlife mitigation property for damages from the former Kerr Dam. So it's all been credited as prairie lands and wetlands. So basically everything that we impact here, we're going to have to mitigate for the uplands and the wetlands. So we're just taking on wetland mitigation conceptual design right now. And the two kind of leading concepts, the first one are the ones on the left. So there's going to be a significant need for material to reconstruct the dam. So there's going to be a big borrow pit that's left open. And so we're going to, after the project, convert that into a wetland feature with a pass-through flow. So it will be provide some habitat benefits for wildlife there. The other concept on the right, we're going to basically dig a big trench in the reservoir and then pile material on the edge. And so it won't affect reservoir capacity overall, but it will, where we're piling material into either an island or a peninsula, depending on what wildlife wants, it'll create some wetland fringe along the edge of the reservoir. And the supply of water for that would just be the reservoir water. So those are kind of our concepts that we're working with right now. And we basically just got it to a point of agreement with the folks, the resource folks. And we're going to kind of pause until the rest of the design progresses to a level that we can kind of know what the impacts are really going to be and dig into the designs a little further. So that's where we're at with that project. A third project we've been working on, we're collaborating with the recreation program. And many of our projects are going to have impacts to access. So a lot of the projects are going to have to shut down whole areas for a season or 2 seasons, and limiting people's ability to get places they like to go. So we wanted to mitigate for some of those impacts by putting some efforts into a recreation area. So we picked Twin Lakes because it's close to a lot of our projects up in the Jocko. And we're going to just do basic facility upgrades. We're going to replace some of the picnic tables, replace some of the bathrooms with vault toilets, put in some more bear hang poles with some signage on how to use them. Close off some of the roads because that area just had gotten such heavy use that the use is just spreading out kind of everywhere. And so we'll just close off some of those informal roads and do some weed control and some planting But we want to use, this project's, compared to all the other projects, this is a pretty simple project. And so we're hoping to use, or we are going to use the Mission Mountain Youth Crew to do a lot of the work this summer. So that's kind of exciting. I think they're pretty excited about it too. Yeah, did I forget anything? Oh yeah, and we're also going to try to replace the signage out there because a lot of the information is out of date and they're just real old signs. And so we're working with the Salish and Kalispell Culture Committee to help us design some new signs for that location. Yeah, those are some of our projects that we're on. I don't know if anybody has questions.
Any questions? No? Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
That kind of winds us down toward the end. As you can see, a tremendous amount of technical work and talent and ability are being applied to further expand our water rights with the implementation of the compact. I'm just happy to be part of the team, frankly, but there is a need to effectively communicate some of these activities. Ongoing is with the support of Dowell is a website that is going to be project focused so that people can easily look at the map like you see in the lower right quadrant and see a project or activity and then hit it and then zoom in on kind of a timeline overview, expand out to possible job opportunity or contract. So that's under development and hopefully in the next couple months I can start bragging about that and showing that. So that'll be a growing, ever evolving process to brag about. Adding to the team will be a GIS position to use story maps to, which is a fantastic tool to take all this technical data and make it more visual, accessible, which I think is key in some of these issues because they can become incredibly technical, but a picture, of course, tells 1,000 words. With that, I'll wrap it up and let council go on about its business. And just want to say thank you for a chance to give you just a peek, a tip of the iceberg of all the activity that's happening at Dewars.
Thank you, Rob. Great job. I'm very proud of your crew and all the staff there. I mean, you're taking care of our water, and it's one of the most important aspects of our culture and our people and our future. So your due diligence is greatly appreciated. And I want to say that on behalf of council. You guys are all doing a wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Especially those two elders, that Steve and George, junior elder Seth. Thank you. I think that concludes our meeting for the day. Oh, go ahead, Ellie.
Okay, our next issue will be an executive. Okay, Rob, we're going to go into executive now.